prayer. Lord, the God of righteousness and truth, grant to our King, to his government, to members of the Legislative Assembly, and to all in positions of responsibility, the guidance of your Spirit. May they never lead the province wrongly through love of power, desire to please, or unworthy ideas, but laying aside all private interest and prejudice, keep in mind the responsibility to seek to improve the condition of all. Amen. Honorable members, we will now be led in the singing of God Save the King by Mr. Matthew Bassett. I invite you to participate in the language of your choice.
God save our gracious King, long live our noble King. God save the King. Lead him victorious, happy and glorious, long to reign over us. God save the King.
Please be seated.
Introduction of guests.
The honourable member for Edmonton Goldbar has an introduction of a school group. Does anyone have it on his behalf? We will proceed and perhaps come back. The honourable member for Lac St. Anne Parkland.
It's my pleasure to introduce to you and through you 3 board members of the Perma Chandri Therma Foundation who successfully organized the Alberta Days. Savit Patel, who has significantly contributed to the Indo-Canada's Women Association, Rajeep Mittal, an oil and gas project management professional, and Manjo Chanda, an author who has published a series on real estate value creation. Please rise and receive the traditional warm welcome of the Assembly.
The honourable member for Edmonton Highlands Norwood has a school group to introduce.
I'd like to welcome students from STEM Collegiate, a school located in Edmonton Goldbar. Please rise and receive the traditional warm welcome of this House.
The honourable member for St. Albert.
To introduce to you and through you a constituent of the beautiful botanical arts city of St. Albert. Randy Woolstenholme is active in provincial politics, but this is his first visit to this place. I thank him for his support and ask him to rise and receive the traditional warm welcome of this House.
The honourable member for Grand Prairie Wapiti.
Mr. Speaker, to you and through you, I'm honoured to introduce my wife, Mary. She's been my rock in marriage and in business. As I step into my new role as MLA, Mary's my greatest ally in every endeavour. Mary, please receive the warm welcome of this House.
The honourable member for Cypress Medicine Hat.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and it is a great honour to introduce to you and through you 2 members of the Medicine Hat District Chamber of Commerce, Alexandra Zabel and Lisa Dressler. Please rise and receive the welcome of this House.
The honourable member for Edmonton West Henday.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to introduce to you and through you to the members of this Assembly, my amazing family, my mother, Karen Arcand, my cousin, Angie Walker, my nephews, Phoenix Walker and Cullen Arcand Paul. If you would please rise and receive the warm welcome of this Assembly.
Petrie. The Honourable Minister of Education is next.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to introduce members of the Jewish Federation of Edmonton and representatives of B'nai B'rith. Alberta's government stands with Alberta's Jewish community in the face of rising anti-Semitism. I ask that they rise and be recognized, Mr. Speaker.
Here, here. The Honourable Member for Edmonton Glenora has an introduction.
I rise to introduce to you and through you to all members of the Assembly, Aishita Singla. She's an award-winning founder and director of Madhuban Performing Arts in Calgary, and she's tirelessly promoting and advocating for South Asian arts, culture, and voices. She's also a constituent of my friend, the MLA for Calgary, Bullard-McCall. I ask that Aishita rise and receive the warm welcome of this Assembly. Oh, and she's also a top 40 under 40.
Yeah. Honourable Member for Lesser Slave Lake.
Both to you and through you, Some special people from my riding. First of all, Norm Cedar from the MD of Lesser Slave River. He is an amazing ambassador to the town of Slave Lake. And from the MD of Opportunity, Cheryl Coutre, Brendan Powell, and Darlene Jackson, who was nice enough to all give us jerky today. Thank you.
Yeah. The Honourable Member for Edmonton, Beverly Clearview.
It's my great pleasure to rise and introduce to you and through you two great friends and constituents, Marianne Martin, a veteran, having served 30 years in the Canadian Armed Forces, and Andrew Robertson, an incredible activist and supporter. If you will both please rise and receive the traditional warm welcome of this Assembly.
The Honourable Member for Lacombe-Ponoka has an introduction.
I rise to introduce to you and through you to the Assembly several hardworking Lacombe County members here for the Parliament Convention. Dana Kreil, Ken Weinick, Alan Wilson, Tim Timmins, Dwayne West, Michael Minchin, and Bill Cade, please rise and receive the warm welcome of the Assembly.
Honourable members, are there others? Oh, the Honourable Member for Livingston McLeod has risen.
To you and through you, I would like to introduce Rob Seward from the MD from Foothills County. I would like you to rise and receive the warm and traditional welcome of the Assembly.
Are there others? The Clerk.
Ministerial statements. Member statements.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton Castle Downs has a statement to make.
Marks the 105th anniversary of the end of the First World War. The conflict, with its immense loss of life, was supposed to be the war to end all wars. The Second World War, which began just 21 years later, was the bloodiest military conflict in human history. A century later, we are still striving to bring stability to a fractured world. We gather on November 11th to show that the loss of our Canadians was not in vain. This sacrifice was to attain a level of freedom and peace they would never get to experience. During this week of remembrance, it's important that we recognize that our safety and security is made possible by countless women and men who defend our borders at home and abroad. Our veterans fought in support of freedom, democracy, rule of law, and human rights. As a global community experiences extreme violence, let this day be a reminder to center these values. These women and men take their honored place in our country's military history beside their fellow veterans and fallen comrades of Canada's earlier war efforts. While it is vital that we take time to honor these sacrifices made by those who have bravely fought for our freedoms, our remembrance should not be limited to a single day. We reap the benefits of our soldiers' sacrifices every day and should not take them for granted. As Canadians, let us honor those who fought for and continue to fight for the values we hold dear. Let us pay tribute to the soldiers who sacrificed their lives for us, those who have served, those currently serving both at home and abroad, and to the families and friends that support our military community to do the selfless work that they do every day for all of us. We honor them as we strive for respect, tolerance, and dignity for all, lest we forget.
The Honourable Member for Cypress Medicine Hat has a statement to make.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As the government's military liaison, I rise in the House today with reverence to acknowledge Remembrance Day, a day that serves as tribute to the millions of Canadians who have served in our armed forces. Canadian troops have displayed remarkable courage in various conflicts such as the First and Second World Wars, the Korean War, Afghanistan, numerous international military missions, and peacekeeping operations. They've earned a distinguished reputation for their bravery, unwavering defense of our freedoms. Remembrance Day unites Albertans and Canadians in paying tribute to the dedication and sacrifice of our armed forces. Annually, Canadians pause to reflect in remembrance of those who have served and gave their all in defense of this nation's freedoms and sovereignty. With over 2.3 million Canadians having served in the military and more than 118,000 making the ultimate sacrifice, their contributions are honoured and remembered. Canadian soldiers play pivotal roles in historical battles like Normandy, Vimy Ridge, and Juno Beach, while also playing very key roles in peacekeeping efforts across the globe due to their excellence and professionalism. The Canada we know and love today is a result of their dedicated efforts and sacrifices. This is also a moment to ensure that the current members of our armed forces and their families receive the recognition they deserve. knowing that their ongoing efforts and sacrifices are appreciated and remembered. This is the responsibility of future generations to preserve the memory of these sacrifices. Lest we forget the horrors of war, we must continue to defend the democratic values previous generations fought so hard for. We must strive for a just and peaceful world where future generations need not make the same sacrifices. Mr. Speaker, I ask all members to join me in honoring those who served for our freedoms that we enjoy today. We will always remember them, lest we forget.
The honourable member for Calgary Mountain View has a statement to make.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Looking around this House today, things look pretty different than they did the last time we were here. I'm joined by 19 new colleagues. Talking to so many excited new MLAs has given me occasion to reflect on this job, on how you absolutely must be grounded in who you are and why you are here. The UCP will try to tell us daily who we are. They will talk about our woke agenda to defend human rights. They will talk about our communist plan to ensure that Albertans have access to medical care. They will even talk about, quote, our reign of terror that cut child poverty in half. They put us on graphics, they put words in our mouth, they accuse us of all manners of crime. So allow me to set the record straight. I grew up in Northwest Calgary, where I now raise my daughter. My parents worked very hard to give me this future. My mom's parents came to Canada when she was 4. They didn't have much education, but they worked hard. They built a house and they sent my mom to university. That's part of why I'm here. Because I think people should have that, university degree or not. They should have a house, food, and an education for their kid, access to doctors when they need it, hockey or soccer lessons, and the occasional vacation. It's not a big dream, but it's one that I think that most Albertans share. But that dream seems to be getting further and further away for so many, especially in the last 2 or 3 years. Cost of living is certainly a part of it, but the slow erosion of average wages, the results of years of conservative trickle-down policies, is the biggest problem. There are many reasons that I'm here, but the biggest is that an ordinary family should be allowed to have an ordinary life. I think that the world is better and that we all benefit when everyone has the basics. I know who I am and what I stand for, and I know my colleagues stand with me. So the UCP can call me whatever they want. I won't be fooled, and neither will Albertans.
The honourable member for Lac, St. Anne Parkland.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Those who don't know their history are bound to repeat it. This is one of the greatest downsides of our human condition, but one we must address head on. Right now in cities around the world, they're witnessing significant events and rise of anti-Jewish hatred. In Ottawa, protesters hold up signs likening the Star of David to a swastika. In Los Angeles, a 69-year-old Jewish man is beaten to death in the street. In Russia, anti-Semitic mob storms an airport to stop a plane arriving from Israel. In Paris, pro-Hamas protesters walked down the streets openly saying, "Kill the Jews." All of these events were predicated by the Hamas terrorist attacks that took place on October 7th of this year, which saw more than 1,000 civilians murdered, which saw 40 babies beheaded, 200 men and women and children around the world taken hostage, including Canadians, by terrorist group of Hamas. Mr. Speaker, as we prepare to commemorate another Remembrance Day, we once again are being called to action, right in the face of what is evil is taking place in our world. Our government cannot and will not let the Jewish hatred take hold here in Alberta, and it starts with education, particularly education around the Holocaust and the greatest singular act of terror and evil that this world has ever known. I recently returned from a trip in Germany where I visited the topography of terror and a Holocaust memorial, and I can tell you it was profound to be in the place where those events took place and to see the world events taking place and to see how that can take root and overwhelm an entire society with little acts of hatred. This is why I believe Alberta should strongly consider having the Holocaust education as mandatory in the social studies curriculum. Alberta is not immune to the scourge of anti-Semitism. To the Jewish community, in Alberta we say this: our government stands with you. We always will. God bless.
The honourable member for Edmonton Glenora is next.
Mr. Speaker, I'm proud that I was the health minister in Alberta's first NDP government. The then Premier told me that she wanted somebody who shared mainstream Alberta values, somebody who would protect our public health care, someone who would ensure that the chaos and blame stopped, and who'd get to work with the experts and frontline health care providers to ensure that all Albertans could get the right care in the right place at the right time. Albertans deserve a government that cares and is forward-thinking. Later that summer, we announced that Calgary would finally be getting their top-notch cancer hospital set to open in 2024. While we were in government, oil prices were low, but we committed to keeping hospitals open and expanding patient care. We worked to improve cancer treatment, cutting wait times for breast cancer surgeries by approximately 50% in Calgary and Edmonton. And for anyone waiting for a mastectomy or lumpectomy or waiting for somebody they love to get one, that was life-changing and often life-saving. Instead of blaming cancer patients for their diagnosis, which of course isn't their fault, Premier, we put patients first. We invested in the first new public long-term care centres in Alberta in decades, Fort McMurray Downtown, Calgary Bridgeland, and Edmonton Northwood centres would mean that patients would be able to have a quality life in a great home instead of die in a hospital. We opened an additional 2,000 long-term care and dementia care spaces in other areas as well. Albertans could get a family doctor in all major centres, and as a result, doctors actually returned their retention bonuses, allowing us to reinvest that money in programs that would support their patients. Without layoffs, we saved the entire system over $220 million through streamlining services while expanding care. Under the current government, costs have exploded and patient care has been sacrificed. And now, after constant attacks over the last 4 years, the UCP has decided to throw more chaos into the healthcare system. Mr. Speaker, Albertans deserve better. They deserve a government that cares.
For Calgary Northeast.
And Sikh communities in Alberta as they prepare to celebrate two important festivals, Diwali and Bandi Chhor Divas. Diwali, also known as the Festival of Colors, is one of the most widely celebrated festivals in the Hindu tradition. It brings the triumph of light over darkness and good over evil. It is a time when we can learn from the message of Diwali the importance of unity, joy, and the victory of knowledge over ignorance. On the same day, our Sikh brothers and sisters celebrate Bandi Chhor Divas, which celebrates the release of Guru Har Gobind Sahib Ji and 52 other prisoners from the Gwalior fort in 1619. This day symbolizes freedom and justice and highlights the values of Sikh faith. Both Diwali and Bandi Chhor Divas are celebrations of hope, unity, joy, love, compassion, and freedom that are integral to Alberta. The Hindu and Sikh communities have contributed to the cultural, social, and economic fabric of our province. It is a testament to the welcoming and inclusive nature of Alberta that these two communities, with their distinct cultural backgrounds, can flourish side by side, united by the common principles. As we celebrate Diwali and Bandi Chhor Divas, let us all take a moment to appreciate the cultural richness and diversity that these communities bring to our province. Let us also reflect on the values of light, freedom, and unity that these festivals symbolize and strive to incorporate them and the policies we create in this assembly. Me and my colleagues will be visiting these celebrations, and I encourage others to do so. I wish everyone a joyous and prosperous Diwali and Bandi Chhor Divas. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable members, the time is now 1:50, and that makes it oral question period. And the leader of His Majesty's loyal opposition has the call.
Mr. Speaker, the Premier's so-called healthcare plan creates healthcare silos and adds multiple layers of bureaucracy. In a 36-page cabinet brief, however, there's not even one page that details a plan to hire any more frontline healthcare professionals to the bedside of Albertans. If the Premier had consulted, she'd know that the single biggest ask from people working on the front lines is to hire more of them. Yeah. Why did this Premier forget to consult with those frontline healthcare professionals?
Yes. The Honourable the Premier.
Mr. Speaker, we've known for some time that the problem at Alberta Health Services is a management problem. Quite frankly, they were doing too many things. They were setting policy, they were essentially spending the lion's share of the dollars, they were contracting out, they were also responsible for service delivery, and they were also responsible for evaluation. We're not going to be able to get a truly accountable system where we have multiple service providers providing great jobs for frontline workers in a number of different settings unless we start bringing some of those functions back into the ministry, and that's what we're going to do.
Mr. Speaker, Heather Smith of the United Nurses of Alberta says she was not consulted, but she was unequivocal. The government's rush to restructure is reckless. It's risking the very stability of our healthcare. She said loud and clear, we need to recruit, not destabilize. Instead, this premier has plowed ahead, ignoring those who know healthcare best, our nurses. To the Premier, why did she dismiss the voices of frontline healthcare workers? Was their expertise just too darn inconvenient for her plans to gut our public healthcare system?
Premier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It was actually a story from that same individual that got me thinking about how we need local decision making. She was the one who told me they couldn't even get ginger ale in the staff fridge at one of the hospitals because some bureaucrat decided it was too expensive. That's the kind of outrageous thing that we see when you don't have local control and local decision making, and it's the kind of thing that we're going to address. I also spoke with the Canadian Nurses Association at an event recently and found out that Alberta has the lowest number of nurses working full-time, 38%. That says to me that we have not created working conditions where people want to work full-time, and we've got to fix that.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
One of the most important working conditions that nurses seek is the respect to be consulted before radical overhauls are dropped on top of their heads. Now, we can all agree that public health care in Alberta needs help. Unfortunately, the Premier doesn't seem to understand that rotating emergency room closures, skyrocketing wait times, and family doctor shortages will not be fixed by adding 13 new agencies, boards, and councils. A registered nurse, Anaya Johnson, said no healthcare worker I know would recommend millions of dollars be spent on additional layers of bureaucracy while eliminating public service. Why not listen to the nurses?
Yes. The Honourable Premier.
Well, Mr. Speaker, of course the member opposite is mischaracterizing what we have done. We are making incremental change. We've changed the structure, yes, but the day-to-day life of nurses on the front line, doctors on the front line, and paramedics on the front line is going to change slowly over time. The minister is having regular consultations, and we are going to take advice every step of the way. This is why we have said it is not an event, it is a process. We have now put a new structure in place, and we'll be able to consult with all of the frontline workers to make those incremental improvements with the help of the advisory boards, and we're looking forward to it.
Leader of the Opposition for a second set of questions.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I think the Premier needs to go to the dictionary and look up the meaning of the words integrated and incremental. Nonetheless, meanwhile, both the Premier and the Finance Minister have admitted that the TELUS report's pension estimates are unconfirmed and not yet final. Nonetheless, this UCP government continues spending millions and millions of public dollars on ads full of misinformation. So why won't the Premier pull these misleading ads off the airwaves? Stop wasting Albertans' money and apologize to them for this abuse of their taxpayers' dollars.
We've shown our work, and the member opposite can feel free to read the Life Work report in the back in the appendix. It goes right from 1966, showing the amount of premiums that Albertans paid in and the amount of benefits paid out. In 1 year, it was $8.5 billion Albertans paid in and only $4.5 billion paid out. Every year, year after year, Albertans are overpaying. Those dollars are going into compounding, and that's why LifeWork came up with the result that Albertans are entitled to 53% of the assets. We're looking forward to seeing an alternative number.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Albertans are are entitled to facts, not fake news. Now, meanwhile, the UCP government continues playing hide and seek, holding yet another one of their one-way telephone calls on pensions. Now, once again, though, we'll do what this government won't, and we'll hear from people directly. We're meeting with Albertans face-to-face in Edmonton next Tuesday and again in Calgary on November 29th, and there'll be more meetings to come. I'll invite the entire UCP caucus to join us, and to the Premier in particular, what does she say? Would she like us to save a spot at our in-person town hall?
Hey, hey. The Honourable the Premier.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I hope the Leader of the Opposition at least reads the report before she goes into that consultation, because it is pretty clear when you do the assessment, when you look at what the Act says, when you look at the calculation, that's what we hired LifeWork to do. I was pleased that the Finance Minister, when he had his meeting last week with the other Finance Ministers, got a statement from the Federal Finance Minister that she would look into doing the work, get the actuary, and give us her assessment. We'll be looking forward to having that conversation after.
Honourable the Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the Premier's claiming that her so-called referendum will let Albertans decide on whether the government should gamble away their retirement security. But here's the problem. No one believes this UCP can be trusted to manage this process with integrity. So far, they've got surveys without questions, one-way information sessions masquerading as town halls, and taxpayer-funded misinformation ads. To the Premier, if she wants Albertans to trust her at all on this, why won't she start by apologizing for wasting millions of dollars by spreading fake news?
The Honourable the Premier.
Well, Mr. Speaker, it's because the members opposite spread fake news that we've had to correct the record with an advertising campaign. You forget, Mr. Speaker, that they were telling poor seniors, vulnerable people, that their pension would be stolen. Shame on them.
Shame.
In fact, as we now know, with the pension legislation we're putting forward, the only way you can have an Alberta pension is if 100% of the assets are transferred for that purpose, if the contributions are lower or the benefits are higher, and if it's put to a vote of the people. That's going to be enshrined in law. People will have their say if they choose, then they'll tell us if they want to have a referendum.
Honourable the Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, this Premier is going to appear with Tucker Carlson, a right-wing radical American personality who has repeatedly promoted hate, racism, and misogyny. Yes. Now, this isn't just the Premier having a private conversation with one of her favourite random crackpot friends. This is the Premier of our province, who should be held to a much higher standard when representing Albertans and engaging on their behalf. To the Premier, why is she using the power, the dignity, and the privilege of her office to lend credibility to someone like Tucker Carlson?
The Honourable the Premier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Obviously, I do not subscribe to every view of every person who interviews me, whether that is the CBC, the Toronto Star, or Tucker Carlson. My goal is to share Alberta's message with as many people, regardless of where they're from, because Alberta has a wonderful story, and we need to make sure people know it far and wide.
The Honourable the Leader of the Opposition.
Carlson described Ukrainian President Zelensky as, quote, rat-like and a, quote, persecutor of Christians, among many other anti-Semitic tropes. Not too long ago, he also went after a duly elected rep of the U.S. Congress using pointed Islamophobic language, stating she was, quote, living proof that the way we practice immigration has become dangerous to our country. To the Premier, with the recent rise in anti-Semitism and Islamophobia, why would she lend the credibility and respect of her office to this person?
Order, the only one with the call is the Premier.
Mr. Speaker, Albertans are so proud to have offered settlement to 40,000 Ukrainian evacuees, and the amazing work that more than 200 frontline organizations have done to be able to ensure the seamless integration into Alberta so that people can get on with their lives, learn a language, start a business, and be able to contribute. We're very proud of the support that we've given to the Ukrainian people.
Opposition.
Yesterday, our member from Edmonton Decor read out some additional comments that Tucker Carlson has made in public. He called immigrants, quote, dirty. And he described Iraqi people as, quote, semi-illiterate, primitive monkeys. Let us be clear. This is hate speech. The minister responded yesterday stating the government condemns racism and hate, but it looks to me like the Premier is welcoming this rhetoric with open arms.
Bring it on.
To the Premier, will she cancel her appearance with Tucker Carlson and stand up for the integrity of this province?
Premier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Alberta is calling and people are listening. They know that this is a province that wants to...
Well, the Premier has the call.
The world is calling, Alberta is calling, and the world is listening, because we have seen more people come into this province in the last year than we have since 1981. We're charting a pathway to continue that growth so that we can be double the population by 2050. We have an anti-racism council, a multiculturalism council. We've increased the number of provincial nominees. We're going to continue to welcome people from around the world.
The honourable member for Edmonton West Henday has a question.
Through you, Mr. Speaker, and to the Premier, this legislature has notice of the existence of treaty in the province. Within Treaty 6, the Medicine Chest Clause carries a deep obligation by all governments to fulfill the treaty right to health. And Mr. Speaker, this Premier's first act in her role was to implement the Sovereignty Act without consulting any Indigenous nations, despite there being a legal duty to consult. Right. Indigenous nations spoke loud and clear then that they did not get consulted on the Sovereignty Act. Can the Premier tell me which nations she consulted before announcing the healthcare changes?
The Honourable the Minister of Health.
Speaker, we have been actively engaging with First Nations across the province. There was a very extensive engagement that occurred through the Modernizing Alberta's Primary Care System panel. There was an Indigenous panel, and in fact, Mr. Speaker, there were many recommendations that came forward. A few weeks ago, I was able to share that we are initiating an Indigenous navigator. We are having an elders roster. We've added $20 million to an innovation fund, Mr. Speaker.
For Edmonton West Henday.
Nations continue to be an afterthought of this government. Mr. Speaker, Indigenous nations in this province found out about this government healthcare plan just 2 days ago. It's difficult to argue that adequate consultation was conducted when it came to dealing with the treaty right to health. Why didn't the Premier meaningfully consult with Indigenous leaders before making any radical changes to the healthcare system?
The Honourable the Minister of Health.
Mr. Speaker, I've been meeting continuously with Indigenous groups right across the whole province. Mr. Speaker, I've met, and we also did inform them of the changes prior to, we had an embargoed meeting with all of them. Mr. Speaker, what I hear from Indigenous communities is they want...
The Honourable the Minister of Health.
They want to be included, and they don't want government creating programs for them. They want to be part of the solution. So, Mr. Speaker, as I've indicated through the Modernizing Alberta's Primary Care System, we are investing heavily in Indigenous communities.
The Honourable the Member for Edmonton West Henday.
Whether it is the Sovereignty Act or the dismantling of our public health care, it's clear that this government failed to consult with Indigenous nations with respect to the treaty right to health. As a lawyer, I often had to teach folks on the legal obligations of the duty to consult. I would be pleased to give the Premier a lesson. She has demonstrated in the short time she's been in this role, she does not understand her legal obligations. Will the Premier commit to meaningful consultation on any decisions that will affect Indigenous rights from this day forward, or does she need another lesson on the law?
The Honourable, order, the Honourable the Minister of Health.
Mr. Speaker, the truth of the matter is we are consulting. We have been consulting. We will continue to consult. Mr. Speaker, in fact, we're going to be working together on improvements. As I indicated, we are investing heavily, $20 million to fund the Indigenous communities to design and deliver innovative primary health healthcare services and projects. Mr. Speaker, an Indigenous patient complaints investigator, an elders roster to actually help people, Indigenous people, through the delivery of healthcare. We want to counteract racism. Mr. Speaker, a health division.
Calgary Bennington has a question.
After years of UCP cuts, they don't build schools, they fire support staff without warning, and they spend time ruining the curriculum rather than helping students get the education they deserve. This is about the future. These kids are Alberta's future leaders. Yep. Can the minister tell the House why kids in Alberta should get less for education than those learning elsewhere in the country?
Yeah, great.
The Honourable the Minister of Health.
The students in Alberta should get a world-class education system, and they're getting precisely that. Just a couple of weeks ago, I had the opportunity to welcome a delegation of German ministers of education who have come to learn about Alberta's success. We're continuing to provide supports to our school division in budget 23.
The Minister of Education.
They don't like hearing about Alberta's success, Mr. Speaker, but I'll continue. In Budget 23, we increased funding to education by over 5%. That includes $820 million over 3 years to fund enrollment pressures, to help hire over 3,000 additional educational support staff, including teachers. As well, we are continuing with an aggressive school development project, including 98 projects through the past 4 years.
Member for Calgary Bennington.
The list of devastating stories I hear from parents, students, and teachers goes on and on and on. Classrooms with 40 kids or more, bus rides an hour more because there's no school close to home, not enough teachers, educational assistants, critical support staff. And given that later today I intend to table a bill that will take steps to improve public education in the province and give this House an opportunity to come together to address urgent needs in our classroom, my question is, will the minister support it? Will my colleagues on that side of the House take a stand for public education?
Education.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'm not in the habit of supporting something I haven't even seen. Maybe that's how the NDP makes decisions, but on this side of the House, we make very thorough and evidence-based decisions, and we're going to continue to do that. That's why, Mr. Speaker, as I mentioned, in Budget 23,
the Minister.
Yeah, you can clearly see as well the behavior from the members opposite, Mr. Speaker, and the way they conduct themselves, and all Albertans can, of course, see that on display. But we're committed to making sure that our education system remains world-class. We're continuing to provide funding to support enrollment pressures, as well continuing to build schools across the province.
For Calgary Bennington.
Given that the legislation I intend to introduce would require establishment of critical standards for education, class size, student supports, school capital construction, and more, and given that these standards would be created by experts who know what they're doing when it comes to public education, will this minister tell the House who he's listening to? Because it certainly isn't the experts, and it certainly isn't the parents.
The Honourable the Minister of Education.
Sure, I'd be happy to talk about who our government is listening to, Mr. Speaker. We're listening to parents. Just the other day in Grand Prairie, I had the opportunity to talk with over 100 parents and individuals from the community. We're listening to our school divisions who understand the needs of their community better than anybody in this room. We're listening to teachers, Mr. Speaker, about the resources that they need in the classroom to help deliver a world-class education. We're listening to students. Just a couple of weekends ago, I had the opportunity of convening the Minister's Youth Council as well. We're listening to experts who have world-renowned authority in literature and English as well.
The Honourable Member for Camrose has a question to ask.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Albertans know our healthcare system is not working as well as it should. Despite the excellent care they receive from hard-working frontline staff, they're experiencing difficulties in finding a family doctor, struggling with long wait times in emergency rooms and for surgery. Albertans need to be able to access the world-class health care that they deserve where and when they need it. To the Minister of Health, can you explain what the government is doing to restore Alberta's health care system?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Our government is committed to improving Alberta's healthcare system so all Albertans can access the services they need. That is why we are refocusing Alberta's public healthcare system on patient-centred care. Refocusing will enable Alberta to move to a more modern and responsive healthcare model, and this initiative will improve healthcare outcomes for every Albertan, while also empowering healthcare workers to continue delivering high-quality care right across the province, Mr. Speaker. I'm very proud of this.
The Honourable Member for Camrose.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and the Minister for the answer. Given that Alberta is actively working on pathways to recruit, retain, and train more physicians and nurses in the province, given these measures are well underway, can the same minister explain what refocusing measures will address workforce pressures in our healthcare system?
The Minister of Health.
Speaker, and to the member, our refocusing efforts are structured to strengthen our 4 priority sectors: primary care, acute care, continuing care, and mental health and addiction. But, Mr. Speaker, this goes hand in hand with our ongoing workforce strategies. And as I shared last week, Mr. Speaker, it's working. 255 physicians have registered to practice in the last 4 months alone, and we have a net increase of 3,896 nurses since last year. Great news for Albertans, Mr. Speaker. I can't wait to share even more as things progress.
Member.
Mr. Speaker, and the Minister for the answer. Given that Alberta Health Services was shouldering a burden it was not intended to carry, and given that Albertans are facing long wait times and delays to get an ambulance haven't been improving in recent months, can the Minister explain how this refocusing will help address the strain and improve functionality of our acute system?
The Minister of Health.
Speaker, and to the member, I've been around the province and heard very clearly that our system hasn't been working as it should. My focus as Minister is to build a system that works for Albertans, and this is exactly what we are doing. In regard to acute care, the new organization will be laser-focused on delivering solutions that will include shorter wait times, lower EMS response times, provide higher quality of care across all 4 corners of our province, and the front line is excited about this, Mr. Speaker. I heard from paramedics and EMS providers that they are really looking forward to our changes.
For Calgary Varsity.
It's quite a spectacle to witness the UCP's fondness for consultation disasters. Apparently, their motto is, if it's a dumpster fire, just stoke the flames further. Now here we go, barreling down the tracks to dismantle our healthcare system without holding face-to-face consultations with the healthcare professionals who know how the system works. Is this government avoiding in-person consultations because they're terrified of being proven wrong? Or is it simply because they've already made up their minds and couldn't care less?
Minister of Health.
Mr. Speaker, I just want to inform the member opposite that today I had a town hall, a telephone town hall with over 2,000 people that attended, 2,000 healthcare workers that actually wanted to consult and chat on this very issue. Mr. Speaker, it was wonderful to hear the questions from those individuals that we were able to answer. Mr. Speaker, we are going to continue to have town halls. We're going to have face-to-face meetings. I hear from front care line workers every day.
Order. The Honourable Member for Calgary Varsity.
Given that one might assume that a competent government would consult Albertans and healthcare professionals before making drastic changes to the healthcare system, and given that the current approach seems to involve breaking the system first and then informing healthcare professionals under the guise of consultations afterwards, and given that I have heard from so many frustrated frontline healthcare workers who just want their voices heard after years of unimaginable stress, why does the government insist on operating on break it first?
The Minister of Health.
Mr. Speaker, Speaker, the truth of the matter is we have been engaging for years. We did the MAPS engagement, the Modernizing Alberta's Primary Care System engagement. We engaged with frontline EMS and paramedics and first responders. We engaged on the continuing care review. Yeah. Mr. Speaker, we engaged on finding out what the AHS review. The engagements could go on forever, but at some point in time, Mr. Speaker, we need to take action, and we are doing it, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Calgary Varsity.
Given that healthcare professionals are understandably anxious about their job security, and given that during the morning's underwhelming telephone consultation, the minister couldn't even provide a clear example of what she deems a successful healthcare model, my question is this: if the minister doesn't even know what she's trying to achieve with dismantling our health care, how can she possibly stand there and assure healthcare workers that their jobs will be protected and assure everyday Albertans that they will get the care they need and deserve?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Mr. Speaker, again, the members opposite to continue to spew fear, and that is just not acceptable, Mr. Speaker. Our frontline workers are doing incredible work. They have been overtaxed, they have not been listened to, and we're going to change that, Mr. Speaker. One of our guiding principles on the healthcare refocus is to prioritize healthcare workers' well-being and listen to their expertise, Mr. Speaker. We are hiring more. I keep hearing them yell that. We've got a workforce strategy, Mr. Speaker. It's working. But, Mr. Speaker, we need to hear from our front lines, and we're going to.
The honourable member for Edmonton Beverly Clairview.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This government is projecting a surplus this year that can be measured in the billions. Yet, after years and years of cuts and attacks on our healthcare system, our emergency medical services are struggling to keep up with the demand. Wait times at ERs this year have surpassed 14 hours, and just last week, my dad, my 87-year-old dad, waited over 7 hours at the U of A hospital. Does this Minister of Health think that 7 to 14 hours is an acceptable wait time for an emergency?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
No, I don't, and that's why we're going to fix it.
Hear, hear. For Edmonton Beverly Clairview. Order. The Honourable member for Edmonton Beverly Clairview has the call.
Given that the UCP has continuously made empty promises on health care, and given that this government didn't hesitate to spend millions of dollars on an ad campaign to push their pet project and Alberta pension plan, given that actions speak louder than words and Albertans are tired of seeing the UCP waste time and money on ridiculous projects when real work needs to be done fixing our health care system, when will this government stop pushing bad ideas like the APP and focus on improving the lives of Albertans?
The Honourable the Minister of Health.
Mr. Speaker, I believe that Einstein said to do the same things over and over again and expect different results is the epitome of insanity. We have been doing the same things over and over again, and it has not been working. We need to do something different. We are going to do something different, and Mr. Speaker, I am looking forward to showing the results.
The Honourable the member for Edmonton Beverly Clairview.
Given that this government has openly talked about making Albertans pay to see a family doctor, and given that the Premier's preference for private health care is at odds with the majority of Albertans, and given that this government's recent track record on health care hardly inspires confidence, such as the ongoing lab services debacle, to the Minister of Health, this government has screwed up primary care and screwed up lab services. So, which part of health care is going to get screwed up next?
The Honourable the Minister of Health.
Mr. Speaker.
Every day. Order. The Minister of Health has the call.
Mr. Speaker, the truth of the matter is people are looking for change. They know that what is currently happening is not working. Mr. Speaker, those that I've spoken to in primary care are excited about the changes. I have got pages and pages of individuals, of doctors, doctors, of nurses, of healthcare providers, of continuing care individuals that are providers also, that are so excited about the changes because they know there's an opportunity to actually be listened to and to improve the system.
The honourable member for Calgary East.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The constituents of Calgary East have been experiencing a few challenges in their beautiful neighborhoods, and homelessness seems to be an issue that has been affecting many in Calgary East. The safety of individuals experiencing homelessness, especially during the cold winter months, required immediate action. Can the Minister of Seniors, Community and Social Services provide an update on the programs implemented by this government to address homelessness both across Alberta and in my constituency of Calgary East?
Good question. The Honourable the Minister of Seniors, Community and Social Services.
Thank you, first of all, Mr. Speaker, to the Honourable Member who's been a tireless advocate on this issue for the City of Calgary, Mr. Speaker. He started to bring the issue of the increased numbers that we're seeing in Calgary of the homeless population to me early in the spring. It's part of the reason why we've taken immediate efforts to be able to increase emergency capacity in Calgary. We've been able to surge our emergency shelter capacity to 1,700 beds, Mr. Speaker, within the City of Calgary, more than has ever taken place in history. We've also increased funding to our emergency shelters and our community-based organizations who help us work with the homeless population in Calgary by 71%.
The honourable member for Calgary East.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Given that many of my constituents in Calgary East have expressed concerns over the rising levels of homelessness, and further given that as the weather grows colder, my constituents are watching as Albertans came outside in tents and huddle around electrical green boxes for heat. To the same minister, how will this government ensure that safety not only for everyday Albertans, for those experiencing homelessness within my constituency as winter approaches?
The Honourable the Minister of Seniors, Community and Social Services.
Well, Mr. Speaker, we know that encampments are dangerous for everybody involved. They're dangerous for the people within encampments. They're also dangerous for the general public that are around those areas, which is why we've invested in spaces for people to go be warm and be safe, Mr. Speaker. One of the things that we've also done in Calgary is we've added on Indigenous-only spaces, so culturally appropriate spaces where Indigenous peoples feel comfortable, as well as women-only spaces to our emergency program, Mr. Speaker, to make sure that women also feel safe being able to access help when they need to in emergency situations, Mr. Speaker. So lots taking place in the City of Calgary.
The honourable member.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Given that homelessness is a complex issue and there is no easy solution, and given that recently the Calgary Muster State reported that they are struggling to meet demand and have been over capacity since June, to this same minister, what measures is this government taking to ensure that safe and warm shelter spaces are readily available to those experiencing homelessness?
The Honourable Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, we've worked with places like the Mustard Seed, a place I know well. I had the privilege of being the Executive Director for the Mustard Seed, Mr. Speaker, to be able to increase space to deal with emergency programs, Mr. Speaker. But further to that, we know those are temporary measures to deal with emergency situations, Mr. Speaker, which is why we are focused on creating more homes for everybody to live in our province, Mr. Speaker. And that's why we're happy that this government has invested significantly in creating affordable housing all across the province, Mr. Speaker, and we are increasing that capacity. Unlike the NDP, Mr. Speaker, interestingly, the wait list increased by 76% for affordable homes under their watch.
The order. The honourable member for Calgary Currie.
Thank you. Thank you. The ability to own a house, a car, pay for your kids' soccer, and maybe a family night out used to be manageable without a second thought for a family making $100,000 per year. But that's no longer the case after 5 years of the UCP. In 2018, our province had the most attractive minimum wage in the country, and now we're the third lowest. As a result of all this, 1 in 4 Calgarians can't afford their basic needs. Mr. Speaker, I'll pose my question to any of the UCP members for Calgary. Do they think this is acceptable?
The Honourable, the Minister, Jobs, the Economy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Our government recognizes the significant pressure Albertans are facing after record inflation and interest rate increases. We also recognize the significant impacts of potential changes to the minimum wage, including on workers, employers, and costs which are ultimately flowed through to all Albertans. So while Alberta's minimum wage is similar to other provinces and has historically been higher, our government continues to evaluate to ensure that it's appropriate. Thank you.
The honourable member for Calgary Currie.
Well, given that
increasing wage growth has not cut up to the problem of housing affordability, and given that this government invested heavily in their Alberta is Calling campaign, but are failing to ensure housing is available and electricity remains affordable when people actually get here, and given that in Calgary, Edmonton, Lethbridge, and in the Premier's own riding of Brooks Medicine Hat, minimum wage falls way short of meeting basic needs, to the Premier, will this government stop the blame game and work to prevent more Albertans from falling into poverty?
The Honourable the Minister of Jobs, the Economy and Trade.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Our government reduced taxes, reduced regulatory burden, and opened the province for business. Then we launched the Alberta's Calling campaign, and we had 200,000 new Albertans come over the last 12 months.
The Honourable the Minister of Jobs, the Economy and Trade.
Contrast that to the NDP when they were in government. They increased taxes, increased regulatory burden, were anti-energy and anti-business, and they launched their own campaign. Alberta is embarrassing. It's closed for business. Go to BC and get a job. Unfortunately, their campaign also worked, costing Albertans 180,000 jobs and resulting in record unemployment.
Order, order. The Honourable Member.
Given that the members opposite happily boast about a budget surplus while 1/4 of Alberta's young adults regularly use food banks and over 1/3 of Alberta's parents skip a meal so their children can eat, and given that the members opposite love to claim that they're fixing the economy while 300 families in Calgary are at risk of sleeping rough this winter and they won't even have access to a shelter, Mr. Speaker, I'll ask the Finance Minister, is he proud that this government is letting families suffer so that this government can claim a surplus?
The Honourable the Minister of Jobs, the Economy and Trade.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I want to assure Albertans that we recognize the pressures you are under. It's why we've extended the suspension of the fuel tax. It's why we're reducing income taxes. It's why we've indexed core government supports. It's why we're supporting affordable childcare, affordable housing, food banks, and low-income transit. And we will continue to support Albertans every step of the way.
Hear, hear. Order, order. The Honourable Member for Fort Saskatchewan-Vegreville.
Mr. Speaker, this year has been an extraordinary dry one for Western Canada. Livestock producers have been particularly hard hit by these conditions, which is why $165 million of assistance has been made available through the Canada-Alberta Livestock Drought Assistance Program. Can the Minister of Agriculture please share with this chamber and with Albertans how this assistance will benefit livestock producers and how they can apply to receive this assistance?
The Honourable the Minister of Agriculture and Irrigation.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to the member for this important question. Now, agri-recovery is intended to help with extraordinary costs caused by a disaster event that are not covered by our other business risk management programs. Now, the 2023 Drought Assistance Program is focused on areas experiencing a 1 in 10 year or more severe drought. This will help our livestock producers cover costs due to lost grazing days, up to $150 per head. Now, eligible producers can now apply online at afsc.ca/agri-recovery or by visiting their local AFSC branch.
The Honourable Member for Fort Saskatchewan-Vegreville.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Given that this assistance program will bring many benefits to Alberta livestock producers who provide us all with food we need, but given that some of my constituents in 3 municipal districts are not included in this assistance, despite areas directly to the north, east and south be eligible, can the same minister please explain to the Assembly what considerations are taken into account and how are these eligible areas decided?
Honourable Minister of Agriculture.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is absolutely a great question, and to put it as clearly as possible, area-specific eligibility was a requirement set by the federal government. Now, while Alberta fought against this condition since we first began advocating for the program in early July, we knew the urgency of this program and couldn't risk Albertan producers being shorted on critical funding as they entered the winter months. Simply put, Mr. Speaker, the federal government would not have provided their portion of this program's funding without
the Honourable Member.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Given that Alberta's agriculture sector, including livestock producers, is the backbone not only of our economy but our society, and given that our hard-working farmers and ranchers provide Albertan and the world with food security in the time of global unrest, can the same minister please share with us how this government is living up to its commitment to stand up for Alberta farmers and ranchers?
Order. The Honourable the Minister of Agriculture and Irrigation.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you again to the member. Our agricultural producers are vital to Alberta. That is something this side of the government understands, representing most of rural Alberta, having farmers and ranchers sitting in these chairs over here. Throughout this year's dry growing season, we spoke with producers and rolled out numerous supports, a water pumping program, doubling the low yield allowance, reopening agri-stability, and the temporary livestock water assistance program. And our government has fiercely advocated to the federal government for this drought assistance program since July 5th. We will stand up for our farmers.
The order. The Honourable Member for Edmonton Northwest.
Mr. Speaker, the vast majority of Albertans want this government to keep their hands off of their pensions. And this feeling actually extends to many Albertans sitting on the government side of this very legislature. Throughout the election, UCP MLAs promised that there was no plan to take Alberta out of the CPP. The Minister of Agriculture promised that he would absolutely protect Albertan pensions in the Canada Pension Plan. Does this minister have a message for his constituents who believed him when he said, I quote, absolutely protect the CP?
The Honourable the Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. What we've always committed to is having an honest conversation with Albertans about this proposed idea. The report's out in the public. It's been validated both in its interpretations and methodology. We've got assurances from the federal government that they're going to involve the chief actuary and their department to dig into this. If that information changes, so will our engagement with Albertans, of course. This has always been meant to be an honest conversation, and I surely hope that if the opposition is engaging, that they do it in the fairest way possible.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton Northwest.
Well, Mr. Speaker, given that the pension survey this UCP government is flogging out there at a cost of more than $1 million a week doesn't even give Albertans the option to state if they do not want to pull their pull the pension out of the Canada pension. And given that the UCP has refused to consult with Albertans in person, preferring to take fake consultation and multi-million-dollar propaganda campaigns, does the Minister of Finance not trust Albertans? Is that why his fake survey and consultation won't let them say no to this ridiculous and dangerous gamble to gamble away their pensions?
The Honourable the Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, I do not know if the nearly Democratic Party does not understand how a referendum works. All we have said the entire way along is that we would have this conversation, we would gauge the interest of Albertans, we would ask them what it means to them, what's important to them, whether it's on the benefit side or the contribution side, to get a good understanding of what this could mean. We're talking about a potential of $5 billion left in the Alberta economy for Albertans, their families, for Alberta businesses. It's worth consideration.
Honourable members, a point of order is noted at 2:32. The Honourable Member for Edmonton Northwest.
Well, given that many MLAs on this side of the House, that side of the House, campaigned hard against pulling Alberta out of the Canada Pension Plan during the election, members for Livingston-Macleod, Bonnyville-Cold Lake, St. Paul, and the Minister of Agriculture are all on tape promising their constituents that they would protect the Canada Pension Plan. On this side of the aisle, we believe that Albertans deserve a government that does what it says. So, will this Minister of Finance listen to his colleagues and commit to keeping his hands off of Alberta's pensions?
The Honourable the Minister of Finance.
I'm glad the member opposite brought up the Canada Pension Plan, because something I was able to make very clear to the other finance ministers across the country and the federal minister is that Albertans are, of course, concerned about CPP, and whether we started our own plan or not, they would like to ensure that CPP is left as a stable tool for the retirement of all Canadians. And that's what the LifeWorks report showed, that at that asset withdrawal, it would return to a sustainability ratio like it had in 2013 when no one was concerned. Well, then,
the Honourable Member for Calgary-Falconridge. Oh, my correction. The Honourable Member for Calgary-Edgemont.
Quote, "I love women, but they're extremely primitive. They're basic and they're hard to understand." These are the words of the Premier's newest friend, Tucker Carlson, who should be lending this credibility of her office to on January the 24th. My message to the women of this province is a simple one. You are not primitive. You are not basic. You are leaders in Alberta's economy, healthcare, schools, and so much more, and Alberta is stronger because of you. Does the Minister of Status of Women agree with my message, or like the Premier, does she prefer Tucker Carlson?
The Honourable the Minister of the Status of Women.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I do agree with the member opposite that Alberta's women are leaders within our communities and our economy, and when they fully participate in our economy, our civil society and our province thrives. Ensuring women in Alberta have access to good quality jobs and can succeed in fulfilling careers is crucial to the success of our province. We have so many examples of how we support women, from our Women in STEM and Persons Case scholarships to Women Building Futures, to investing to help women find jobs in transportation, to our Women's Hub. I could go on and on.
The Honourable Member for Calgary Edgemont.
Given that Tucker Carlson said about women, and I quote, "You just need to be quiet and kind and do what you're told." Given that he once told a woman writer, quote, "You should stick to your thigh-high boots." Given that he's publicly referred to women as ugly and pigs and whores, and given the Minister of Status Women's mandate letter says she must support the participation of women in Alberta's economy, will the Minister follow her mandate letter and tell the Premier to skip the conversation with Tucker Carlson?
The Honourable the Minister of Status of Women.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Premier has been clear that she participates in a variety of public and private events and does interviews with dozens of reporters, broadcast.
The Honourable the Minister of the Status of Women.
And podcasters from across the political spectrum. Obviously, as politicians, we do not subscribe to every view of every interviewer or reporter we speak to. Our goal, and it's unfortunate that the members opposite don't want the world to see how amazing Alberta is doing, speaking to all venues, spreads our good news.
Order. The Honourable Minister has the right to answer the question. I should have the ability to hear it. I rose to call the House to order with 7 seconds remaining. The Minister has that time if she wants to use it. If not, I can proceed. The Honourable Minister.
As I said, our goal is to share Alberta's message with as many people across the world. The members opposite may not want to share our amazing economic news, but we do.
The order, the Honourable the Member for Calgary Edgemont.
Given that the Premier is excited to share a stage with Tucker Carlson, who once stated that he felt sorry for a U.S. Supreme Court judge because he found her unattractive. Given that he stated, quote, "What gets women going is to argue with them." Given that he has a long and documented history of misogyny, will the Minister of Status of Women be joining the Premier for this conversation, or will she be standing with Alberta women and tell the Premier that her endorsement of Tucker Carlson is wrong?
Point of order is noted at 2:37. The Honourable Minister of Status of Women.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll repeat it again in case the members opposite didn't hear. From our Women in STEM and Persons Case scholarships to Women Building Futures, to providing $3 million to help women find jobs in transportation, to our Women's Hub, to our skyrocketing job employment numbers. Alberta is thriving. Alberta is succeeding. Again, I know the members opposite don't want that message shared with the world, but we do and we will.
The Honourable the Member for Livingston-Macleod.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Alberta has a tangible economic optimism right now. Our economy is strong. Many key indicators are trending upwards, and last month, Alberta added 38,000 jobs. This morning, the Business Council of Alberta released their inaugural Prosperity Scorecard. The reports highlight that we have much to be excited about here in Alberta, including positive trends for Indigenous economic prosperity and women in the workforce. To the Minister of Jobs, Economy and Trade, can you discuss the findings of this report and how it supports the work you are doing?
Good question. The Honourable the Minister of Jobs, the Economy and Trade.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and to the member for a question. I'm very encouraged by the findings of this report. This scorecard further demonstrates why Alberta is and remains the economic and job creation engine of Canada. Per capita GDP rose 4% between 2020 and 2021, and the report also found that 90% of people surveyed said that they have the opportunity to live a good life in Alberta. That is exactly what we want to see and exactly what we want to hear, and we're working to continue Alberta's leadership and momentum.
For Livingston McLeod.
Thank you, Minister, and thank you to the Minister for that answer. Given this report, which highlights some promising improvements for Indigenous people here in Alberta, and given that the income gap and the unemployment gap for Indigenous Albertans has closed by 3% points, can the Minister of Indigenous Relations please share some of the important work that's being done to generate this positive change?
The Honourable the Minister of Indigenous Relations.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to the member for such a great question. Mr. Speaker, Indigenous participation in the economy is such a vital part in moving Alberta forward, and I'm pleased to see the transformational change that's happening across the province. This is seen through the programs like we've started the Alberta Indigenous Opportunities Corporation, which backstops loans for Indigenous communities. This is creating jobs, promoting economic development, as well as our Aboriginal Business Investment Fund. It's a grant program to help kickstart smaller Indigenous-owned businesses, creating jobs again and opportunities to spark economic growth. Mr. Speaker, the economic future for Indigenous peoples is bright, and I look forward to the work to continue.
Member.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to the Minister for that response. Given that the Business Council of Alberta's report finds that the income gap of women in Alberta improved 3% points, and given that this government has been steadfast in their commitments to supporting women and increasing their economic participation, and given that there is still work to be done to ensure women can fully participate in Alberta's economy and close the wage gap, Mr. Speaker, to the Minister of Arts, Culture and Status of Women, can you please tell Albertans what you are doing to ensure that we continue to close the wage gap and support the economic participation of women here in Alberta?
The order, the Honourable the Minister of Status of Women.
Mr. Speaker, our government is dedicated to supporting women's economic participation, as I just detailed. We're providing post-secondary scholarships like the Persons Case Scholarships, the Women in STEM Scholarship that we introduced in 2020 to help women break economic barriers. We're supporting women to enter the skilled trades and transportation industries through partnerships with Women Building Futures and the Alberta Motor Transport Association. Mr. Speaker, the report from the Business Council of Alberta shows that our work is paying off. In addition, Stats Canada shows that Alberta women are leading Canada in employment.
Honourable members, this concludes the time allotted for oral question period. For the purposes of clarity, there was a point of order called at 2:37 by the Honourable the Government House Leader, if I failed to note that. Also, if any member has lost a set of keys during the rotunda ceremony today, it is in my office. You're welcome to answer the skill testing question and I'll get it back to you, but it was found by the members area during the rotunda ceremony earlier today. Have a safe drive home if you're headed out this afternoon, and in 30 seconds or less we will continue with the remainder of the daily routine.
What's that? Did you guys get it?
Introduction of bills.
The Honourable the Minister of Justice.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I rise to request leave to introduce a bill being the Justice Statutes Amendment Act 2023.
Honourable members, the Minister of Justice has moved first reading of Bill 8, the Justice Statutes Amendment Act. All those in favour of the motion for first reading, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say no. In my opinion, the ayes have it. That motion is carried and so ordered.
Bill 8, Justice Statutes Amendment Act 2023 is now read a first time.
The Honourable the Member for Calgary-Beddington.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise and request leave to introduce Bill 202, the Education Class Size and Composition Amendment Act 2023. If passed, this evidence-based bill will address the concerns about rising class size and complexity by requiring school boards to report to the Ministry of Education on class size and composition, including the number of students with specialized learning needs and language learning needs and staffing. The bill would also require the minister to make this information public so Albertans have transparency around the state of education in our classrooms. Additionally, the legislation would establish a commission on learning excellence every 10 years to provide informed recommendations to the education minister based on the reported data. Finally, the bill would require the Minister of Education to use these recommendations to establish class size and composition standards to guide funding and school capital decisions. I do hope that all members in the Assembly will support it and allow for a full debate in the House as a priority for Albertans. Thank you.
The member for Calgary-Bennington has moved first reading of Bill 202, Education, Class Size and Composition Amendment Act 2023. All those in favour of the motion for first reading, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say no. My opinion, the ayes have it. That motion is carried and so ordered.
Bill 202, Education, Class Size and Composition Amendment Act 2023 is now read a first time. Tabling returns and reports.
Honourable members, I'm sure that everyone will be happy to know that the owner of the keys has been located. And I wouldn't want to embarrass them, but their riding initials might be LM. The tablings, the Minister of Health.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to table the following annual reports. All requisite copies have been provided to the Office of the Clerk. First, the College of Physicians and Surgeons of Alberta 2022, the Alberta College of Pharmacy 22-23, Alberta Dental Association in College of Dental Surgeons of Alberta 2022, Alberta College of Combined Laboratory and X-ray Technologists 2022, College of Dietitians of Alberta 2022, Physiotherapy Alberta College and Association, College of Physiotherapists of Alberta 2022, Alberta College of Occupational Therapists 22-23, Alberta College of Speech Language Pathologists and Audiologists 2022, Alberta College of Optometrists 2022, College of Acupuncturists of Alberta 2022-2023, Alberta Health Services 2022-2023 Annual Report, Hospital Privileges Appeal Board 2021 and 2022, Alberta College of Social Workers 2022, College of Alberta Denturists 2022, College of Podiatric, whatever. I'm sorry, I'm losing my voice. Physicians of Podiatric Physicians of Alberta 2022, College of Naturopathic Doctors of Alberta 2022, College of Licensed Practical Nurses of Alberta 2022, College of Medical Laboratory Technologists of Alberta 2022, Alberta College of Medical Diagnostic and Therapeutic Technologists 2022, College of Midwives of Alberta 2022, College of Dental Technologists of Alberta 2022, and Health Quality Council of Alberta 2022-2023.
The honourable member for Calgary-Bennington has a tabling.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm just tabling 5 copies of 2 articles that I referenced in bill debate yesterday. CBC November 1st, 2023, new bill could change compensation for Alberta public sector executives, non-union staff. And Edmonton Journal, May 19th, 2016, province introduces legislation to regulate compensation of Alberta government CEOs.
Member for Edmonton Klong.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to table the requisite 5 copies of an excerpt from the Edmonton Social Planning Council's 2023 report on Edmonton's living wage, which documents that the living wage in Edmonton today is $22.25, while currently Alberta, the minimum wage in the province sits at $15 an hour and $13 an hour for workers under the age of 18.
Are there others? The honourable member for Calgary Varsity.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Calgary Curry, just for Hansard.
I'm sorry. Calgary Curry.
I rise to submit 3 pieces of correspondence in regards to private members' Bill 201, the Alberta Healthcare Insurance Access Fees Amendment Act. These are each from different constituents within Calgary-Curry who are seeking family doctors, each discovering unique clinics that are in fact charging private membership fees. One of them is from Megan, who reports that a clinic in the riding is asking for private membership that will include expedited access to insured appointments. Another from Robin, who reports that we simply cannot afford $4,000 per year in membership fees for herself, her husband, and their elderly mother. And then I have another one from a different Robin for a different clinic that also reports that she has been looking for a family doctor and came upon a clinic that is claiming $3,000 to be able to access a family doctor. I table 5 copies of each for the public record.
Are there others? Seeing none, the clerk.
Tablings to the clerk, deferred divisions.
Members, that brings us to points of order. And at 2:32, the House Leader for the official opposition rose on a point of order.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, at 2:32, it was, I believe, the Minister of Finance, in his response, referred to the official opposition by a false name of the nearly Democratic Party. And I rose to call this point of order because I find this is language likely to create disorder, but more so is against the tradition of respect and honor that we tend to operate with in this place. Now, I have opened up House of Commons procedures and practices, section 619, that carries on to 620, 621, areas that have been referenced often in this place, Mr. Speaker, because it deals specifically with the rules around how we reference each other in this place. And these rules are here to guard against the tendency to personalize, but I think it's also a matter of respect. And so referring to the New Democratic Party by a different acronym, I believe, is likely to cause disorder in this place. And from page 619, I would note, a minister is referred to, the portfolio he holds, the 2 main party leaders may be referred to as the Right Honourable Prime Minister and the Honourable Leader of the Opposition, and other party leaders are identified as the leaders of their respective parties. I believe the intention behind these rules of decorum in Chapter 13 are that we should not be making up language that might insult and inflame debate. I ask that you rule it to a point of order, Mr. Speaker, so that we discontinue this practice in this place. I think as a sign of respect, we can use each other's correct party names.
The Deputy Government House Leader, the Minister of Justice.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is clearly a matter of debate. The Honourable Minister was referring to an opinion expressed on the democratic principles of the members opposite, which of course is the crux of all types of debate that happens in this legislature. The opposition House Leader referenced titles that are conferred to individuals. The Honourable Minister was referring to a caucus. Mr. Speaker, one might argue that the values of the opposition are less than nearly democratic, and others would argue that the opposition members engage in principles that are undemocratic at all. Similarly, some may argue that the principles of the opposition are more democratic than nearly. And the point I'm trying to make here is that these are all matters of debate, and that nothing would be more problematic than imposing restrictions on matters of debate in this House, Mr. Speaker. I would implore you to not impute the intentions of the Minister as the Honourable Opposition Government House Leader intended, but to rule that this is a matter of debate. Thank you.
Are there others? I'm prepared to rule. I do have the benefit of the blues, and the Honourable Minister of Finance at 2:31 was stated the following. Mr. Speaker, I do not know if the nearly Democratic Party does not understand how a referendum works, and a point of order was called by the official opposition House Leader. The Minister of Finance went on to make the remainder of his point, but I don't think that's relevant for today's discussion. Here's what I would say. I don't agree with the leader or the opposition House Leader that the Minister of Finance was referring to any title inside the Assembly, as if he had have said the leader of the Nearly Democratic Party, perhaps that would have been different. That wasn't what he said. He was speaking more broadly to his opinion on the Nearly Democratic Party. It did create disorder as a result of a point of order. I'm not going to find this a point of order in today's occasion, but I will provide a caution because, as some members will know, I've been around the legislative precinct for quite some time. And if anyone is curious on the constituency break, they might look to Alberta Hansard from November 1st, 2012, where the then Honourable Speaker Swazdeski made a significant and lengthy ruling, which I will spare the House from, with respect to the use of the words "the wild alliance" when referring to a former political party that had some standing. This is not a point of order. I consider the matter dealt with and concluded, and at 2:39, the Government Deputy House Leader rose on a point of order.
Thank you again, Mr. Speaker. I rise on Standing Order Sections 23H, I, and J, pursuant to a matter that happened at 2:37 p.m., whereby the member for Edmonton Whitemud shouted out directed towards the member for Morinville St. Albert. Speaking of misogynists was the wording used. I believe that this is in fact a point of order, and in contravention of sections 23H, I, and J, it makes allegations against another member, it imputes false or unavowed motives to another member, and uses abusive or insulting language of a nature likely to create disorder. I would ask that the Speaker ask the member to rise, withdraw, and apologize.
The Official Opposition House Leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we were speaking of misogynists. This was a question about Tucker Carlson, who has said, "I love women, but they're extremely primitive, they're basic, they're not that hard to understand," who has told women they just need to be quiet and kind of do what you're told. This was an extremely heated back and forth between the government and the official opposition, and the member from Edmonton Whitemud was not speaking to any individual in this chamber, but certainly Tucker Carlson being a misogynist is a matter of debate in this House, and it has been quite inflamed right now, Mr. Speaker, because of Albertans' strong reaction to knowing that Danielle Smith is going to endorse such a person on a national and international stage. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
The Official Opposition House Leader will know that the use of a proper name in this Assembly, particularly that of the Premier, would be a point of order and inappropriate. However, I will accept the fact that it could have been a mistake. Is there any others? I am prepared to rule. I do have the benefit of the blues, and I do see that there was some interjections at the time which has been stated. However, the interjections in which have been recorded by Hansard do not include the statement that has been alleged has been made by the Honourable Member for Edmonton Whitemud. As I've said in this House a number of times, just in the few sitting days that we've had, that the Chair cannot be expected to rule on comments made off the record in the absence of a reliable record. I would say that if that member did say you are a misogynist, that would be a point of order. However, if she was making broad statements with respect, well, probably unhelpful, may not in fact be a point of order. In this case, without the evidence of a reliable record, the Speaker is unable to rule as to the point of order. I consider this matter dealt with and concluded. Orders of the day, orders du jour.
Consideration of Her Honour the Lieutenant Governor's speech. Adjourned debate, Ms. Wright.
Honourable members, are there others wishing to provide replies to the speech from the throne? The Honourable Member for Grand Prairie to provide his maiden speech.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I rise before you with gratitude and optimism. representing the remarkable riding of Grande Prairie in Northern Alberta. It's a privilege to share with you who I am, my reasons for entering public office, and the unique strengths of our constituency. We had such a great throne speech, and I am thankful to be able to respond to this while emphasizing the opportunities and bright future that Northern Alberta holds for our incredible province of Alberta. First, a little bit about me. I started my working journey on a farm, learning the skills about hard work, the can-do attitude, and growing in further understanding of the importance of family. I want to thank Bill and Sylvia Clausen for hiring me and starting my work journey with you and your family. You truly showed the Alberta spirit of hard work, can-do attitude, and a desire to grow and build into the next generation. Thank you. As well, thank you for my family and for your support. Thank you to my grandparents. Thank you to my grandparents, John and Betty Dick, who first came to Alberta and instilled the values of family, patience, and love of life. I deeply thank you for your love of our entire family and for all who have become friends, not just family. To my parents, Doc and Ruth Dick, thank you for your continued desire to love others, encourage and instill in us the values of hard work and character, and your love of God. You are amazing. To my wife, Sandra, and my young family, Nash, Jason, Creed. To Sandra, your unequivocal support, desire to see our entire family grow and build into our community is truly exemplary. Thank you for choosing to continue to build the future of Alberta alongside of myself and this team. To my sons, Nash, Jason, Creed, while you may not fully yet understand the significance of this work, your joy in pursuit of life is incredible. And I look forward to continuing to be part of your journey as you develop into strong, thoughtful, brave leaders. And to those who came before and served the people of Alberta, I am very thankful for your service and continued encouragement. Thank you to the Honourable Walter Pislowski, the Honourable Marvin Moore, the Honourable Mel Knight, the Honourable Everett McDonald, the Honourable Wayne Drysdale, the Honourable Tracy Allard, and the Honourable and incredible prior Finance Minister Travis Taves. That is a lot of honourables in the last 30 years. Thank you for your service to this incredible province, and your contributions continue to be significant and important. From the very moment I entered the workforce, I did so full of hope, energy, and a can-do attitude, and a desire for entrepreneurship. At the young age of 18, I started my first business, a construction company alongside my father. My passion for business has only grown since then, having started several businesses in the last few years. As a business person, I see endless opportunities in Alberta, across our great province. Particularly, I see it in Northern Alberta, where I do believe we are the next frontier of growth for Alberta. And I'm committed to working hard to grow this potential for the benefit of all Albertans. I'm drawn to public service because I truly believe in what our province can achieve. I want Alberta to continue to be the top spots for jobs and family life, all while we lead the way in the world of energy, forestry, agriculture, technology, and many other fields, all while doing so responsibly. As an entrepreneur and business owner, one of the reasons I am passionate about joining this and continuing public service is the tireless efforts of small business owners and their contributions to Alberta. As a small business owner myself, as I mentioned, I know the many hours, countless creativity, hard work, and can-do attitude required to run a small business. I believe Alberta is the best place to be a small businessman, and I want to be able to continue to the continued growth of the business community. To the small business and business owners, your work and contributions matter to Albertans and to the success of all our communities. Now, let's take a moment to celebrate the incredible qualities of our region. Northern Alberta, particularly the vibrant city of Grande Prairie, stands as the largest commercial centre north of Edmonton and is a major connector to the Canamex and North-South trade corridor. I believe the opportunities and growth of the north and northwest are the future of our province. We have the opportunity of a lifetime, and we are the frontier of this growth and opportunity for many years still to come. Now let's turn our attention to the future, a future that Northern Alberta and Grande Prairie is well prepared to shape. My riding of Grande Prairie is a bustling city. It's a shining example of the hard work, can-do attitude of Northern Albertans. Our business community is a thriving place with companies and workforce that are passionate about what they do, with many companies in energy, technology, and architecture working internationally. We have a world-class business people who inspire us with their innovation, with their adaptability and success. They are part of the backbone of our economy and a source of inspiration for our next generation and myself. Speaking of economic stability, Northern Alberta has consistently contributed to the province's economic well-being. We're not only thriving ourselves, but are also ensuring the prosperity of Alberta as a whole. We're a crucial pillar of Alberta's success, and we're committed to maintaining that position. In our region, we understand the importance of energy as a cornerstone in our economy. Our skilled workplace and workforce plays a crucial role in supporting our energy industries. Their can-do attitudes and incredible work ethic continue to be major contributors to Alberta's well-being. The future of energy lies in continued technological advances, and we're poised to be at the forefront of this transition, setting an example for the rest of the province and the world. Technology is an ever-changing frontier, and our region is leading the way. Energy companies in Northern Alberta are leading the way in these technologies, paving the path towards a greener and more sustainable future. From technology companies that have worked across the world to creating technologies that contribute to the streamlining of energy development, the talent and can-do entrepreneurial spirit is strong in our city. Promoting our energy technology globally can significantly cut down emissions, enhance safety standards worldwide within the energy sector, and continue to pave the way for sustainable energy security for all nations involved in energy production. The people of Grand Prairie and area have already greatly contributed to this substantial work and are partners in creating this cutting-edge technology. Agriculture, too, is a cornerstone of our region's prosperity. We have vast fertile lands that yield excellent crops and provide a home for livestock. From canola to barley, wheat, and cattle farming, our agricultural sector is diverse, contributing to the province's food security and economic prosperity. Many residents who live in Grand Prairie are professionals across this field and have made cross-border contributions in this sector. Our forests, covering vast expanses of land in the north, are more than just a natural wonder. They represent a wealth of opportunity and a vital resource for our economy in building homes, producing paper pulp, and creating sustainable jobs that have global impact. We continue to sustainably harness the potential of our forests, promoting responsible harvesting that continue to care for and grow our future forests, while also continuing economic growth and building jobs. When we take proper care of forests through responsible and thoughtful harvesting, we promote healthy forests, which is what this government is actively doing, and I'm proud of this. As part of this, the people of Grand Prairie and surrounding areas are world leaders when it comes to forestry development and sustainability. In the realm of education, our region stands as a strong example. Synergies between school boards in Northern Alberta are a shining example for the rest of the province. From multiple school boards working together to create synergies in busing routes, to recently supporting the opening of a new school, our school boards and community excel at showing up for each other, working hard together, and working together for the education of our children. The cooperation and collaboration between school boards are truly praiseworthy, creating a foundation for greater strength in our education. Furthermore, we're actively preparing for the future by investing in our youth and expanding the trades in the north. We're setting the stage for a future where our region will continue to thrive and lead and bring continued strength to the trades. We have put our money where our mouth is in supporting both high school programs and Red Seal programs. Further, our commitment to trade education is evident through initiatives through recent grants to expand high school co-op programs. These programs have strengthened our education and are also bolstering the future of the skilled trades across disciplines. In advanced education, we have a responsive and thoughtful institution in Northwestern Polytechnic. The Polytechnic's leadership has continued to be strong, working to bring quality trade programs into our area. They are also doing excellent work in equipping our current and future generations for skilled trades. But the Northwestern Polytechnic hasn't stopped there. They have innovated and are doing the hard work to be a leader in the medical world here in Alberta through their international healthcare solutions and the nursing bridging program. There are many exciting times together for NWP. Thank you to your leadership and your continued work as an institute is a testimony to the hardworking and forward-thinking of our area. For everyone in Alberta, I'm eager to continue to collaborate with our current government to enhance our healthcare system. It's crucial that we do so, and Grand Prairie and Northwest Polytechnic continue to have a place in providing solutions and engaging in the future of medical workforce. I wholeheartedly back our government's vision of Alberta being the leading healthcare provider on a provincial stage, ensuring timely and quality care for all our residents. We are taking the bull by the horns and are doing the hard work for Albertans across our province. Further, I look forward to joining this government and continue to create a great place for all Albertans to call home by reducing the tax burdens of Albertans and focusing our efforts to reduce costs related to housing, to fuel, to electricity, and insurance. We're striving to make Alberta one of the most affordable places to live, to work, purchase a home, and raise a family. As well, our City Council and Mayor are a hardworking, passionate group. Big shout out to them. City services in our region are not just up to par, but are excellent. They continue to have innovative infrastructure such as the Eastlink Centre, Muskosipi Trails, and incredible tourism and culture. Our Eastlink Centre provides our community with an Olympic-sized pool, family play area, basketball courts, racquetball and squash courts, walking track, gym, and connection to the twin ice rinks at the DesignWorks Centre. These are truly leading facilities. My wife and I have spent many nights walking Muskosipi Trails, and they aren't just a connector. They go from one end of the city to the other, a unique attribute to our city. They are truly a great centerpiece to our city and showcase the quality of life in Northern Alberta. Tourism and culturalism is also integral to our vibrancy of our region. And a couple cool things that are happening in the near future. In 2024, we're hosting the Alberta Winter Games in February. In 2025, we're hosting the Special Olympics Alberta Summer Games, and we are the first Alberta community to host the National Aboriginal Hockey Championships in May of 2024. These events are incredible, and we are very thankful to be able to host them. Now, I would like to take a moment to extend an open invitation to those who are considering to join us in Alberta, to consider Grand Prairie. Whether you're a skilled tradesperson, a healthcare worker, a business owner, an entrepreneur, you are very welcome to make Grand Prairie your home, and we would welcome you to be part of our community and journey as the frontier and future of Alberta. I am proud to represent the amazing people of Grand Prairie, a region teeming with potential, innovation, opportunity, can-do attitude, and hard work. As a representative, I am committed to working tirelessly to ensure that our region continues to be prosper and contribute to the growth and development of the entirety of Alberta. I firmly believe in a free and prosperous Alberta for my children and for all Albertans, and together we can achieve this vision, and I am excited to be part of this journey along with this team for a brighter and more prosperous future for our great province. Thank you.
Thank you, member. Are there more that wish to speak? The member for Edmonton South.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to actually say hello to family and friends who are at home watching. It's a rare privilege of a lifetime to rise in response to the throne speech for the 31st legislature. I am filled with gratitude as we gather here on Treaty 6 territory, the ancestral lands of the Cree, Métis, Blackfoot, Dene, Nakota Sioux, Saulteaux, and Inuit. My riding of Edmonton South has a high school named after Dr. Ann Anderson, an author and teacher instrumental in preserving the Cree language and Métis heritage in Alberta, Canada. I want to extend my sincere congratulations to the esteemed members of the House on both sides of the aisle on their successful election campaigns. I am here because of hundreds of dedicated volunteers and donors who devoted their energy, their time, and their connections. I would like to recognize two very special people, Liz Dalsomore and Cynthia Fedor, who have believed in me through thick and thin. I am beyond grateful. To all of my constituents who voted for me, to all of you who did not, please know that I am here to represent you all equally. To the love of my life, my husband, Ryan Hoyle, one of the most brilliant and deeply committed people I know. You are the foundation of our home and create the space for me to bloom and pursue every single goal I have. It's an honor to share and benefit from the deep-rooted history that your family holds in Edmonton and Alberta, going back to the 1880s, a history of building community and helping others regardless of their background. We're lucky that their legacy is remembered at the Henderson Round Barn at the Fort Edmonton Park, giving us and so many others around us a chance to share in that history. To our two adored boys, Caden and Logan, who always tell me how lucky they feel to have me as their mom. Thank you for sharing. Thank you with all of your heart for sharing Albertans with me. To my dear beloved mother, Faye Mildred Phelps, your sacrifices, unwavering love, and tireless encouragement have molded me into the person that I am today. This journey would not have been possible without you. Thank you. To my late grandparents, Lilia Ida Ben Phelps and Herbert Douglas A. Phelps, thank you for teaching our family how to live life fully, to thrive with passion, humor, and style. I stand before you all today with a profound sense of duty and responsibility. I have lived in Edmonton South for almost 20 years, and I have seen how much it has changed in a short amount of time. As a previous business owner in the oil and gas industry, a devout community leader, mentor, and fundraiser, I know the importance of having leaders who step up and put people before politics. I wanted our riding to have a strong voice in the legislature. This is what inspired me to run. It's my great honor as the 965th member of less than 1,000 MLAs in the history of this province to be the first Black woman elected as the member of the Legislative Assembly in Alberta. I'm still trying to digest what this means for me, for diverse communities, and our province as a whole. I take this responsibility seriously, knowing that my presence is not just about me. It's about every young Black and racialized youth who has big dreams and sees they can achieve them too. And while I may be the first, I am determined that I will not be the last. Born and raised on an island of Trinidad and Tobago, which shares similarities with Alberta, as its economy is founded on oil and gas and agriculture. Trinidad has been free of slavery for over 180 years, and my grandfather was the engineering project manager for the first oil refinery at the Palo Seco fields in Trinidad in the early 1900s. My ancestors are predominantly African, South Asian, Indian, European, and so all of that history flows through me both physically and spiritually. It's a gift to stand on the shoulders of my Caribbean ancestors. My late father, Charles Russell Lindsay, went to London School of Economics and was an economist and a professor. My mother studied at Oxford, extremely rare for a woman of her time, and was a professor. They encouraged me to be smart, work hard, step out of my comfort zone, and know that it is always my responsibility to help others. To this day, my mother says, "To whom much is given, much is expected." In this chamber, we are more than just decision makers. We are partners in community development. It is a true privilege to be the second MLA and first woman ever elected in Edmonton South, an incredibly diverse, beautiful, and prosperous riding. When my husband and I built our house, Ellerslie Road was nothing but a gravel road. There were no schools, no amenities. Now, we are the fastest growing area in Edmonton. In the last 4 years, we grew by over 30%. Our riding is home to seniors, professionals, and young families who work in energy, the tech sector, healthcare, education, and research to make their living. They work hard to provide the best life for their families and are concerned about their futures. Mr. Speaker, we've been waiting for the South Edmonton Hospital since 2017, when the then NDP government first announced it. We don't have access to a nearby hospital, and many can't find a family doctor. Families are struggling to keep food on the table and pay their bills. Schools are at maximum capacity, and teachers are still feeling abandoned. Post-secondary students are facing sharp increases in tuition. As a mom, so much of the work I have done have been for my kids and for all children in our riding. As Dr. Eric Williams, the first Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, said, the future of this nation lies in the school bags of our children. Mr. Speaker, residents in Edmonton South are worried about trusting this government, leading with integrity, and doing what's right for all Albertans. I will work tirelessly in this Assembly to ensure that Edmonton South continues to thrive, to deliver better health care, better education, and better jobs for all Albertans. With unwavering gratitude and an unshakable determination, I look forward to the journey serving you moving forward. Thank you.
The member for Grand Prairie Wapiti is next, followed by the member from Edmonton Rutherford.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm honoured to rise in this House and formally deliver my reply to the speech from the throne. And I want to thank my wife, Mary, for joining me here today. Allow some of my first official words on the record here in this chamber to be those of gratitude. Gratitude to the constituents who have offered me their confidence to serve as their representative of Grand Prairie Wapiti. Gratitude to those who helped me with the election this spring, and the volunteers and many hundreds of people who contributed and participated. I also want to offer respect for the fellow candidates from other parties who worked hard and made many sacrifices. I offer words of thanks for those across the way who share a commitment to public service. Although we may not always agree on the path to move Alberta ahead, I look forward to spirited and respectful debates. Mr. Speaker, most importantly, I want to extend gratitude to my family, my wife, Mary, my children, and my grandchildren, all who supported me in different ways in this process. To Alberta's MLAs, ministers, premiers, and speakers, all who've made commitment to serve our province. Without their humble service and the service of their staff, Alberta wouldn't be the envy of the nation that it is today. There are a few former honourable members who have particularly inspired me to step into public service. The late Al Adair, better known as Boomer, was my MLA for 22 years while serving in various ministerial roles. Former members Marvin Moore, Walter Paskowski, Everett McDonald, and Wayne Drysdale stood up for our agriculture, forestry, and oil and gas sectors. And Mr. Speaker, most recently, former Finance Minister Travis Taves demonstrated public service by making prudent decisions to get our fiscal house in order. He balanced the budget ahead of schedule and set up a fiscal framework that benefits us today while preparing for the needs of the future generations. It's thanks in large part to his work that our economy is firing on all cylinders again and that we are attracting major global investments. Travis and I got to know each other well over the last year as we traveled this province. I saw Travis connect with folks from Edmonton to Calgary to Taber to Rio Grande on issues like healthcare, public safety, and affordability. Travis was as comfortable talking in boardrooms in New York as he was at his ranch in Rio Grande. I have a tremendous amount of respect for Travis's ability, and I'm grateful for his mentorship as I step into politics. Mr. Speaker, Grand Prairie Wapiti is an innovative, problem-solving, entrepreneurial community. It's that spirit that drew me to move my family and my business to Grand Prairie decades ago. Growing up, my dad was a farmer and a trucker. I found out quickly that I liked driving trucks more than a farm tractor. My interest led me to build a family business in trucking, which became part of one of Canada's largest petroleum carriers. Business success stories don't just happen without their fair share of challenges and failures, and by extension, major learnings. In business, I learned the importance of cross-functional teamwork. It requires working with various business departments, bringing together teams and customers to work together to find solutions. I'm convinced that our work here is no different. We need to bring people together, from frontline workers to middle management to executives, to find the best common sense solutions to the problems we face. Whether that's in healthcare, public safety, or a myriad other issues, all with a single goal in mind of making every Albertan's life better. Humbly bringing together teams with experience and expertise will allow us to land on the best possible solutions. That, to me, is servant leadership. Mr. Speaker, I'm honored to stand in this House and advocate for the continued development of resources that are so abundant in my constituency. Our oil and gas sector is seeing steady growth, and we're attracting value-added petrochemical projects to our region. Our agriculture industry is making impressive technological advances to increase efficiency and yields while reducing expensive inputs and minimizing the environmental impact. Our forestry sector offers lumber, OSB, and pulp and paper while making sure that we steward our renewable resources through reforestation. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention our beautiful backyard where this all happens. The rolling hills and the Rockies to the southwest offer a great place for outdoor activity like hunting, fishing, camping, and much more. Our community, Alberta, Canada, and the world benefits from our resources, but there's more to do. The world needs more of our oil and gas products at the highest, produced at the highest ethical and environmental standards. The world needs more of our high-quality ag products. The world needs more of our grade A lumber. That requires building more pipelines, expanding economic corridors, improving transportation to connect us to global markets. I was drawn to public service for exactly this reason. With the assistance of my talented staff, I hope to serve my constituency and make their lives better while adding to the Alberta advantage. Together with members in this House, I hope to work on the broader legislative environment to bring forward policies that create the right atmosphere for the people to succeed. I mentioned earlier the entrepreneurial spirit and the opportunity present here in Alberta. We can't take these gifts for granted. It took generations to build, and we must work hard to protect these gifts for future generations. It's a great honor and also an immense responsibility, Mr. Speaker, that I assure you, I will work humbly every day to serve the constituents of Grand Prairie Wapiti. Thank you, and God bless Alberta.
The member for Edmonton Rutherford.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Sego, Tanse, Kapapamas Kamganakasqueo, Natsigasun, Michelle First Nation Otsinia, Nia Hodinashoni, Egwanehiawisqueo. My Cree name given to me by my late Mushum teacher mentor, Cecil Nipus, translates to the woman who walks on the earth until her hair turns gray. It took 30 legislative assemblies before I could stand and claim with pride that I am the first First Nations woman to be elected to this assembly. To greet you in my language, Cree, to tell you my name as it was given to me, and to put into record the names of my kin. I give thanks and I recognize all those who have come before me, especially Pearl Callahayson, who was the first Métis woman to be elected into the legislature back in 1989. Breaking trail is where all blood, sweat, and tears shed, but it's what we do so the next generation can walk with ease. I am deeply honored to be here, and I want to express my gratitude to the people of Edmonton Rutherford for placing their trust in me, and to all Albertans for the opportunity to serve our beautiful province in opposition. The collective energy that brings me in front of you today has many inputs. First, it was Richard Feehan, a two-term MLA for the NDP Rutherford, who was a minister of Indigenous Relations. He saw in me a voice and perspective that has evaded the Assembly chambers since Alberta joined Confederation. It was thanks to Richard's tireless work ethic, support, promotion, mentorship, and guidance that we won Rutherford by over 60 points. After Feehan nudged me enough, I took protocol to my elders and I asked for guidance. It was Grand Chief Wilton Littlechild who told me I must go wherever I can make change. So here I am. The energy of my EDA, my campaign team, and all the incredible volunteers was the heartbeat of my spring. We felt every step of the way that this campaign was going to be historic. I fed off their positivity and take their vote of confidence seriously. Edmonton Rutherford is a constituency of contours, texture, from the White Mud Creek in the west across the softly rolling hills in Aspen Gardens, sloping downward away from White Mud Druve, across the flats of Duggan, Ermineskin, and Bearspaw, clean to the corner of Calgary Trail and Anthony Henday Drive. It is a constituency made of newcomers, multi-generational families, high-rises, coach homes, retirement facilities, daycares, mosques, churches, Chinese supermarkets, the Century Park Market, coyotes, rabbits, the Derrick Golf and Country Club, and Monster Mini Golf. I walked across Rutherford at least a dozen times during this campaign, and I was struck not by its differences, but rather the tight-knit camaraderie and an expectation of my constituents that as an MLA, I would fight for quality healthcare services, equality, supports for seniors, investments in small businesses like my very favorite Mimi's, and initiatives that move the needle on climate change. Yes. I pledge to do that, and I am proud to represent Edmonton Rutherford. I am also proud to come from a long line of hereditary chiefs, headmen, and clans mothers. My chop-on, one of my great-grandfathers, was Chief Michelle Callahoo, who represented my family, my band, my nation, when we signed Treaty 6, the Peace and Friendship Treaty that is considered a sacred covenant between the settler newcomers, us the Indigenous people, and Gitche Manitou as the witness, God the Creator. This would be that we would coexist as relatives as long as the sun shines, the grass grows, and the rivers flow. My love for the land started when I was a little girl. My grandfather, Napoleon Maggio, would take me out along the river with my sister, and we would dig up medicines, we would fish, we would trap beavers, we would pick medicines, and he would tell me stories. And we stopped trapping beavers when I was 10 because the population declined. We also stopped fishing because the high nitrogen, which creates blue algae, which is poisonous. My grandfather would tell me that when the water is sick, so will be the people. The traditional ecological knowledge that my grandfather spent many years instilling in my heart and mind is a foundation of knowledge that as Indigenous people we carry in our hearts and minds on this land. Our families have survived these lands sustainably for millennia. I would not be here, the matriarch I am, if I was not raised by strict parents and who loved and nurtured me. To my mother, Connie Callahoo, who taught me the importance and value of growing your own food, the value of using the land wisely, and to do everything possible to protect it from contamination. I was raised to see all people, regardless of ability, sex, gender, income, culture, race, or religion, as my equal and love them. My dad, Bruce Stonehouse, Fire chief, paramedic, nurse, first responder, you've taught me the value of saving lives. Anywhere we would drive, you would pull over, pull someone out of a burning house. But the reality is, you taught me that responders respond in a crisis, being paid or not. Albertans look after Albertans. My grandparents, Stoney and Doris, who own the Home Hardware in Onaway, what I learned was the value of small business in a community. Family-run business is vital to the fabric of our province. And lastly, my kids, who are my inspiration and my strength. You hold me to the highest account, call me out when I need to be, and encourage me when I have doubts. I admire and give thanks to you both so much. I am so proud to be your mother and the mother of many. You are all my blessings. Turning my attention to the speech from the throne, we've all had some time to digest this. And at the moment when I heard it, as I'm sure as many other Albertans did, may have had a bit of confusion. It claims our population will grow to be the second largest province in the country by 2050. Well, at the same time, other provinces will just magically stop. It also claims that we're going to increase energy production, but also incredibly hit net zero targets at the same time. It claims we're going to establish a regulatory regime and on renewables while clearing out regulatory red tape. But you know what confused me the most? When the position was taken that every Albertan would have access to affordable and reliable electricity no matter the time of day or weather. A hearty promise. That is what this government is going to do. Always keep the lights on. But you can't drink electricity. You can't put out fires with electricity. You can't drill for oil with just electricity. Albertans can only do these things with water. Clean, safe, accessible water. Yeah. I've seen the devastating impacts of what happens when Albertans do not have access to clean, safe, accessible water. This issue is not just a First Nations Métis. We also see it in southern Alberta, Mr. Speaker. We need a government that will take the position that all Albertans will have access to clean, accessible water. It's a monumental threat. Water is life, and I'm here to protect it. As we gather here in this House on Treaty 6 territory to address the challenges and opportunities facing our province, it is vital that we recognize this historic significance of the elected Indigenous folks here in this Assembly with me. Our presence symbolizes as steps towards reconciliation, the inclusion of Indigenous voices in decision-making processes. It underscores the importance of diversity and the richness that different perspectives bring to these discussions. Our province is one of great beauty and abundant resources, but it is not without its challenges. We must confront these issues on climate change. We must do economic diversification, access to quality education for every single child. My intention is to work collaboratively with all of you in this House to address the issues that affect our shared future. Together, we can build a stronger, inclusive Alberta. Hi Nanaskaman to my ancestors, to my Lisa, to my family, to my team, my incredible team, I love you, to my supporters, and to everyone for making this historic moment possible. Exe, as long as the sun shines, the grass grows and the rivers flow.
Oh, yes.
Thank you, member. The member for Edmonton West Henday, you wish to speak? Member for Calgary East.
Speaker, it's my honor to rise today and reply on behalf of the constituents of Calgary East to the speech from the throne given by Her Honor the Lieutenant Governor on the 30th of October. Mr. Speaker, while campaigning, I met many Albertans from all walks of life. I had the privilege of chatting with them and listening to their stories, and there were several concerns that I heard over and over. Job creation, support for the natural resource sector, affordability of living essentials, better health care, and maintaining world-class public services. All values and goals that our government is dedicated to upholding. I promise you that our government didn't just listen to these concerns and worries of Albertans without taking action. This can be proven by the fact that we have been working on a variety of critically important issues facing our province. Alberta has come a long way. We have also put Alberta back on a path to success and prosperity, and we promise to work on making lives continuously and tirelessly more affordable for all Albertans. Mr. Speaker, I am pleased to say that we will remain committed to defending the rights and interests of Alberta from jurisdictional overreach of Ottawa. Our Canadian Constitution is very clear that the federal and provincial governments are equal, each with our own areas of exclusive jurisdiction, and our government will work to protect that. Mr. Speaker, Ottawa is our partner, and like so many other Albertans, I am proud Canadian and have been since moving here decades ago. This country, and especially this province, has given me a lot: peace, opportunities, prosperity, security, and a sense of belonging, resources to raise a great family, amongst many other things. And I believe that this is the case of many other immigrant families. So we will keep fighting to protect Albertans from the misguided, unconstitutional, and harmful policies being inflicted by the federal government on our province. So I take the opportunity to call our federal counterpart to get spending under control, to scrap the federal carbon tax that is driving up cost for all hardworking Canadians. No elected representative who is serious about making life more affordable for families should support these taxes, especially at a time when inflation is so high. Hardworking Albertans deserve to be treated fairly. Mr. Speaker, the federal government claims that the consumer carbon tax is an environmental policy. No, it's not. The carbon tax is a tax policy. The parliamentary budget officer confirms it will cost the average Alberta family $710 this year, even after rebates, and it will go up every single year, therefore causing rise in living cost. Mr. Speaker, our government has the strongest job growth in the country, pays the highest wages, reduced red tape massively, provided electricity and natural gas rebates, indexed income tax to combat inflation, re-indexed benefits like AISH, PDD, and income support, as well as the Alberta Seniors Benefit and the Alberta Child and Family Benefit, provided targeted payments for children under 18, seniors 65 and older, and vulnerable Albertans with household income below $180,000, provided additional support for low-income transit programs, and introduced a host of other reliefs. Despite all this, the looming federal carbon tax increased on April 1st will make everything more expensive again. And this is unacceptable. Our government knows that the affordability is the primary challenge facing Albertans right now, and that families are counting on us to take decisive action to address the rising cost of living. And that's exactly what we are doing, and we will be keep doing. With record high inflation caused in part by record spending from the federal government, our people are being forced to choose between the necessities of life and paying their bills. This despite our province is experiencing the strongest job growth in the country, high wages, and a nearly full economic recovery from the pandemic. To help Albertans to weather this inflation storm, we will continue to reduce costs under our jurisdiction. Mr. Speaker, I agree with the Honourable Lieutenant Governor that electricity costs are high. The Alberta government will not allow that to continue. We will ensure that every Albertan has access to affordable and reliable electricity, no matter the weather or time of the day. Mr. Speaker, our government is not hesitating in tackling healthcare reform, which is an ongoing concern in my riding and ridings across Alberta. We have been working so hard that healthcare is available for all our people when they need it. On this, we have also taken action by launching the Healthcare Reform Plan, which aims to improve EMS response time, decrease emergency room wait times, reduce wait times for surgeries, and develop long-term reforms through consultation with front-line workers. Albertans need to protect their vehicles and properties with insurance. Our government will continue to look for long-term solutions to make sure Alberta's insurance industry is affordable and sustainable, as our government is considering every option to provide relief to Albertans. And while exploring long-term solutions, we will take further action to reform auto insurance in Alberta and help make driving safer and more affordable for Albertans. The trickle effect of harmful federal policies on Albertans is making it hard for people to afford rent, as they can hardly catch up with expenses at the rate at which inflation, housing, and rent prices are growing. Shelter homes are struggling to meet demand and have been over capacity since June. So it saddens my heart to see a great number of my constituents living in the street with no place to call home. Our government continues to prioritize the well-being of Albertans and take unprecedented immediate action to reduce homelessness that we are currently experiencing across Alberta, as it is imperative that we make Alberta a place where all residents can have a home. Albertans deserve to feel safe in their province. They need to be able to protect themselves, family, businesses, and their gathering places from individuals who wish to do them harm. Thankfully, our government has taken ambitious steps to improve public safety in Alberta by deploying more officers to guard neighborhoods and by providing the less fortunate with access to government funds. We created the Public Safety and Community Response Task Force to increase the law enforcement presence and to act in bolstering community and business safety. Mr. Speaker, after the last few difficult years we have been through as a province, I want families, the business owners, and all Albertans across the province to know that we are moving forward. Better days are ahead. Our government will forever be committed to the mandate. Since we got elected in 2019, Alberta has been leading Canada in economic growth. Our province is growing faster than any other time in our history. This has been resulted in increased immigration to Alberta. People and businesses are coming back to our province in record numbers and are intentionally choosing to call this province. This growth represents incredible opportunities for Alberta's growth. As we continue to focus on creating jobs, attracting investments, and opening the door for newcomers, we have also diversified Alberta's economy. Our energy, agriculture hubs have grown immensely. We have created many landmark investments across the province. Our rapid growth in new industries such as hydrogen, tourism, rare earth minerals, technology, and new forestry products. We will continue building on our core strength while incentivizing the creation and growth of new industries and opportunities. I firmly believe that the legislation initiatives outlined in the throne speech will only further enhance the momentum we are already currently seeing in our economy. Over the next 4 years, to build a more affordable, prosperous, stronger, and freer future. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The member for Edmonton West Henday.
Tanse kagiawak, mitsigason sipsis, kipotaga otinia, nianehia tasuen napeo. Nikawe Karen Arkan, Notawe Von Egwa Nikawes Debbie Paul. Nogomak Ella Egwa Beatrice Arkan. Nimosumak Angus Paul, Edward Arkan, Egwa Dan Alexis. Nisimsak Mark Egwa Hale Arkan Paul, Egwa Christy Egwa Jason. Nisimsak Nitosim Isquemak Hale Mila Walker, Rosalie Arkan Paul, Noah Yan Fong, Era Arkan Lovett, Violet Arkan Kootenai, Egwa Haley Page, Egwa Addison Morgan. Nitosimak Phoenix Walker, Egwa Cullen Arkan Paul, Egwa Terrence Morgan. Nisimsak Mark Egwa Hale Arkan Paul, Egwa Christy Egwa Jason. Say them twice, why not? Tanse, we are here on the traditional territories of the Nehiyaw, Niitsitapi, Nakota Ishka, Dene, Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and the Métis. Many folks refer to this territory as Treaty 6, and this is an important relationship to this land that was entered into between our ancestors for all of our benefit. Yes, even today. Specifically, I can trace my direct ancestor, Kastawi Scum, who entered into Treaty 6 here at Fort Edmonton a few short steps from where I now have a desk and have given my life to the public service. This adds a responsibility on me to ensure that we honor our treaty relationship every single day, because this House owns it to our Indigenous kin. I just introduced you with one of the oldest laws the Nehiyaw have retained, despite decades of colonial violence and attempted eradication by successive Canadian governments. Our laws have persevered, just like our nations and our people. This law, to identify our kinship and connections, is enhanced by the law of Wukotuin, which creates a moral obligation for good relations with each other. Although relatively straightforward, it is one that we hold tightly, now especially. We are facing unprecedented numbers of folks claiming Indigenous identity, or as is aptly called in pop culture, pretendianism. This is one way to address the ongoing harm caused by folks claiming our identities for their own personal gain. This includes those folks who do not have any connection to an Indigenous community in present day. Yes, that also means the Premier's tenuous claims of Cherokee roots. Not only is it a Nehiyaw law, but it's important to introduce myself and my family to acknowledge that I would not be here today without all of these amazing people standing beside me and encouraging me to reach for the stars, when so many told me to keep my head and voice down so as to not disrupt the status quo. Mr. Speaker, my mama raised me to be a force of good in this world, and that is exactly what I intend to do. In my introduction, I used my traditional name, Sipsis, which was a name given to me when I was born by my Chapan, Jean Arkan, my paternal great-grandmother, who made an offering for me at ceremony. My name translates to Little River, and for me, it's a constant reminder that water is life, and we must always defend it. I also mentioned that I come from the Alexander First Nation, or Kupuutaga, which loosely translates to the bushed-in people. If you've ever visited Alexander, you know that the title fits. The amount of trees and small ponds and rolling hills gives it a feeling that it is truly the bush. And I was born at the Charles Council Hospital, the old Indian hospital that is now being turned into condos. I spent most of my life on my res, and yes, I like to say res because that's what I've called it my entire life. And I'm proud of that upbringing because I believe this is what shaped me. The beautiful sprawling hills of Alexander were where I would drive my quad or bike, dodging not-so-little res dogs with my friends and cousins, because in our way, cousins are always our first best friends. As the first Two-Spirit MLA in Alberta's history, I take my place in history along the many firsts that our team accomplished for the 31st legislative session and they spoke today. The largest official opposition in Alberta's history, the first Black woman elected in our province's history, and the first First Nations woman elected. And I could go on. We accomplished these important firsts because our team is committed to representation of all Albertans, because our lived experiences help this House to navigate difficult policy and legal considerations. Throughout my career, I've dedicated my expertise and knowledge to further the priorities and rights of Indigenous peoples. From First Nations education to protecting our sacred treaties as a lawyer, I've worked hard to ensure that my people, and indeed all Indigenous peoples across Canada, retain and strengthen their rights, laws, and sovereignty that have never been eroded by any government or statute, despite their best efforts. Protecting and strengthening the relationship between our province and the sovereign nations found in Alberta who predate all of these institutions on this land is something we must all work toward on our journey of truth and reconciliation. Wekotowin requires it, Mr. Speaker. While in our role in official opposition as the critic of Indigenous relations and reconciliation, I honor the important role in keeping this government accountable on these points. Now, as the elected member representing my constituents in West Henday, it is my duty to hold this government accountable to its decisions that impact all Albertans. For example, the misuse of Albertans' hard-earned tax dollars on advertisements outside of Alberta to stick it to, you guessed it, Justin Trudeau. And hey, for the record, Mr. Speaker, I'm not a big fan of him or his decisions either, but we don't need to be spending millions of Albertans' dollars on wrapping Toronto subway cars just to send him a message. When we have over 4,000 unhoused folks on Edmonton streets with the brutal winter around the corner. The work ahead of us is a mountain, and specifically the beautiful Rockies Eastern Slopes, which we will work hard every single day to protect in this legislature, along with many of the priorities of everyday Albertans. From pensions to schools, climate change and healthcare, the Alberta NDP will never let this government forget that there are 38 of us who represent many beautiful and diverse communities and their interests.
Yes.
I am so thankful for the number of previous MLAs who represented my amazing constituents. John Carson, the Honourable Dave Egan, and Raj Sherman, to name a few. I'm also thankful for my team and volunteers, Phil, Stephen, Crystal, Leonard, Nancy, Alice, Beth, Don, Keith, Mahesh, Nadine, Roseanne, Terralyn, Sydney, Jim, Irene, Gina, Karen, and Lyric Jane. Mr. Speaker, my riding has changed so very much since the start of this millennium, in so many ways beyond just their boundaries. We've expanded the limits of the city of Edmonton with beautiful communities of Secord, Rosenthal, Hawks Ridge, Trumpeter, Starling, Kinglet Gardens, and the numerous estates at Big Lakes. These beautiful communities, of which I call home with my supportive and handsome partner Jason, who is in the gallery now, and our adorable golden retriever Jake, who is unfortunately not in the gallery, are joined by our gorgeous tree-lined established neighborhoods of Calder, Westview Village, Athlone, La Pearl, Belmead, Terralosa, and Lewis Estates, all of which have fabulously active and cohesive community leagues who are bringing their communities together for fundraisers, community dances, casino nights, and sometimes even a hot air balloon ride over their community. Many of these communities are sadly awaiting many services that this government have overlooked to date. For example, the good people of West Henday have been asking this UCP government and their last term for schools for their young ones. Thankfully, they had some reprieve when the NDP government built 3 in the riding to meet the growth. But, Mr. Speaker, we need so much more for the many families than young families that are building their homes in these communities. They have been asking day in and day out for our infrastructure needs to be met, including intelligent and capable modifications to our highways that have outgrown our ever-expanding neighbourhood needs. The Whitemud and 16A have far exceeded the needs of West Henday. You should try taking a trip on them during rush hour, Mr. Speaker. It's not fun. They're also asking this government to seriously consider the affordability crisis in real, tangible ways. Instead of complaining about the carbon tax, they want the UCP government to actually provide them with real solutions. They need this government to seriously consider putting in meaningful caps on their utility bills so that they don't have to pay their bills on their already overloaded credit cards or risk blackouts. I've met folks from my community that are struggling to make ends meet, from their rising rents, utility bills, and insurance, and the rising costs of being able to just put a meal on their table. One family in my riding admitted that they were forced to eat rice for weeks because they could not keep up with the piling bills that have grown since the UCP took office. We're also seeing a rise in tents and makeshift homes setting up around our communities that were never there when the NDP were in government, and which have certainly increased across the board since the UCP took the helm. When I speak with constituents about these structures, I'm not met with pleas to lock them up or hide them away. Instead, I hear genuine concern about their well-being. They, much like many of my colleagues on this side of the House, are heartfelt in wanting better for all Albertans, including those experiencing houselessness. Every Albertan deserves a roof over their head. It is a human right, full stop. Mr. Speaker, the people of Edmonton West Henday have elected me to bring these concerns to this legislature to have honest and open debate with the members across the aisle. While we may not always agree on which approach is best, I sincerely hope that this session can address our collective issues and help Albertans out when there are too many pressures already on them. I'm here because of my ancestors. I'm here for the next 7 generations. I'm here for those queer kids that deserve to see themselves in this house because they belong here too. Eximaga nanaskaman, Mr. Speaker.
The member for Edmonton Southwest.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am truly honored to rise in the House today as the 966th member of this Assembly and as the member for the beautiful riding of Edmonton Southwest. Edmonton Southwest is one of the fastest growing ridings in the province. It is diverse, both demographically and in its environment. The riding is home to the future Big Island Provincial Park, which contains 68 acres of untouched natural beauty along the North Saskatchewan River, including significant wetlands, mature balsam forest, and abundant wildlife. On a map, Edmonton Southwest is oblong in shape, bisected by the North Saskatchewan River. The riding has been described as, and I quote, having the vague appearance of an abstract cockatoo looking over its shoulder, end quote.
Okay.
Edmonton Southwest is home to many vibrant communities, representing many different cultural backgrounds and religions. Major languages spoken include Tagalog, Mandarin, Cantonese, Spanish, Punjabi, and Arabic, among others. In many ways, Edmonton Southwest is a perfect microcosm of Alberta. It is a reflection of hardworking folks from all walks of life, from oil field workers to plumbers to healthcare workers and teachers. The average age of residents is 34. Their top concerns? Affordability, healthcare, and education, especially the need for schools. I'm proud to have advocated and opened several area schools, having served as the Edmonton Public School Board trustee for much of the riding for nearly 10 years. But we need more. My story is like the story of many Albertans. I am the son of immigrants. I was born in Taiwan. My parents came to Alberta in the 1980s, in part so that my sister and I could be afforded better opportunities. Like many immigrants of their generation, it was not easy making their way in a new country. Economic opportunities were often limited for folks who had little or no formal education in Canada. So my parents worked hard to forge their own path, operating small businesses over the years. Some achieved moderate success, others less so. Money was at times tight, but we were always provided for, always loved. From my parents, I learned grit, resilience, ingenuity, and the importance of perseverance. While my mother spoke little English, she was resourceful, always informed, active in her church, and surrounded by other amazing women in the Chinese-Canadian community where they would uplift one another. My childhood was rooted in and supported by community.
As a one-time English language learner, I benefited from the support of teachers and educational assistants until second grade. Without question, I wouldn't be here today without the support of a strong public education system and of a vibrant community. But today, the building blocks of a well-supported education system are at risk. Funding per student has not kept pace with population growth. Class sizes are larger and more complex than ever before. Students travel long distances to attend school. New and growing neighborhoods do not have enough school space. Alberta is short thousands of teachers and educational assistants. Having served as a school board trustee, I witnessed firsthand the impact of deep cuts to education over the past 4 years, and in particular the gutting of program unit funding, or PUF, an early years intervention program that was once the envy of Canada. It is well documented that between ages 0 to 5 is a crucial window in a child's development. Children who are able to read at grade level by grade 3 are more likely to finish high school and achieve success beyond. So it is shameful that this government has cut funding and support to Alberta's most vulnerable children. Changes to the education funding formula has resulted in fewer dollars for growing school divisions and does not fully fund student growth, especially at a time when the province is seeing high interprovincial and international migration. Cuts are often cloaked and disguised as funding formula changes or adjustments, but a cut is a cut, and it comes at a price. As my former school board colleague, the great Ray Martin, would always say, you pay now or you pay later. Mr. Speaker, it is ultimately the children of this province who bear the costs of short-sighted decisions by this government in the name of fiscal prudence. We know that investing in prevention, whether in healthcare or in education or in other essential public services, will benefit all Albertans in the long run. We must also consider the human costs. Imagine children who fall through the cracks and who do not receive the intervention or support they need. Imagine the Albertan who cannot access timely primary care. We all bear the costs of lost potential. And as Alberta builds the economy of the future, it's not what's underneath the ground that is most valuable, it is what's above it. It's people. To adapt and thrive in an ever-changing world, we must invest in the people of Alberta. That means investing in the collective good, in initiatives that will benefit all Albertans. That means investing in public education and public health care, in a renewable energy future. We must invest in new and emerging innovations, in knowledge creation and research, and talent retention, which also means adequately funding post-secondary education. The world is changing. Globally, we face an uncertain future. With climate change, upheaval in parts of the world, our province is at a crossroads. We can either embrace change or run away from it. We have the opportunity to make the principled and necessary decisions that will harness the potential and possibility of this province. Mr. Speaker, I believe the role of government is to create the best possible conditions that will allow all Albertans to prosper, thrive, and flourish, and to ensure that every Albertan, regardless of background or circumstance, can live a life of dignity and fulfillment, rooted in a sense of belonging and community. I am proud to be part of a social democratic tradition where we believe access to quality education, healthcare, affordable housing, a living wage is a right, not a privilege. I am proud to be on the side of the House that cut child poverty in half when in government and that believes in the potential of everyday Albertans. I am proud to be part of a history-making caucus. Mr. Speaker, I have spent much of my career in community and economic development advocating for Albertans. Most recently, prior to my election to this House, I led startup programs for Edmonton Unlimited, the City of Edmonton's innovation catalyst. There, I was inspired by entrepreneurs and innovators who were doing their part to solve intractable problems. I met a small business owner who was creating a platform and marketplace for underserved, racialized women. Another company pioneered a technology that transformed waste to energy. One entrepreneur was working to connect students to affordable housing. Like my parents and so many everyday Albertans I've met in my riding, these innovators, entrepreneurs, and problem solvers represent the spirit and resilience of Alberta. Our diversity is what makes us strong. So it is hard to believe that just 3 generations ago, my election to the legislature would not have been possible. 100 years ago, with the passing of the Chinese Exclusion Act in 1923, someone like me would not have been allowed to enter Canada, much less seek public office. I am proud to be part of just a handful of members to have been elected in this chamber, to this chamber of Chinese descent, and I am proud to be the first Taiwan-born MLA. Progress towards a more equitable and inclusive and more just society cannot be taken for granted. The trajectory is not always linear. I'm standing here on a path paved by trailblazers before me, and it is in their honor that I will continue fighting for a kinder, more inclusive Alberta. And to those Albertans who feel unseen and unheard, I want you to know that you matter and you belong. When my mother first arrived in Alberta, the first thing she noticed was a big blue, seemingly endless sky. Our blue skies are emblematic of the possibility of this province. My colleagues, we all here for a limited time, stewards of this hallowed place and all it represents. Let's work together in the interests of all Albertans. Finally, I want to thank my family for their enduring love and support, especially to my mother, the strongest, most resilient person I know. I am proud to be your son. And to my mentors and many friends, volunteers, and supporters, my journey would not have been possible without you. And to the people of Edmonton Southwest, thank you for sharing your stories, your hopes, your dreams, aspirations, and challenges with me. My abiding commitment to you is to always represent you with integrity and to the best of my ability, and to always tirelessly advocate for you. Thank you for placing your trust in me. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I move we adjourn debate.
Having heard the motion by the honourable member for Edmonton Southwest, would those in favour of the motion please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion is carried. The Honourable Deputy Government House Leader.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I want to thank everyone for hearing more of their inspiring and moving maiden speeches. I'm hoping that we can dismiss a little bit early, and for this Deputy Government House Leader's position, I hope everyone uses those extra 19 minutes to race home to their family. So with that, I move that we adjourn the Assembly until 1:30 on Monday, November 20th, 2023.
Those members in favour of the motion as moved by the Honourable Deputy Government House Leader, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. I think the ayes have it. That motion is carried. Pursuant to Standing Order 3-6, the Assembly stands adjourned until Monday, November 20th at 1:30 p.m.